Chapter 41. Bang! After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the altar suddenly trembled. The walls of the temple glowed. Everyone was stunned at first, and then the 3 warriors of the Zhao family were overjoyed. The altar trembled, which meant that a child of the Zhao family might have awakened his bloodline. Bang! Not long afterward, the altar trembled again. This time it was more obvious. The walls were glowing and the runes were wandering. A strange force came out from the runes. The 3 elders of the temple suddenly opened their eyes. One of them nodded to the warriors of the Zhao family. The 3 warriors of the Zhao family were even more overjoyed. The people of the temple were sure that a child of the Zhao family had awakened his bloodline, and his rank must be high. On the other hand, Lu Yi and the others looked awful. The Lu family had been through a great change, and so many people had died on the frigid cloud mountain. The family's strength had been greatly damaged. If a powerful bloodline warrior were to be awakened in the Zhao family, it would be even worse for the Lu family. Time passed bit by bit. An hour later, the altar's light dimmed, and everyone's gazes immediately swept over the 5 children. When they saw a faint cyan mark on the left side of the child's neck, they were in an uproar. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, black, gold. This was the color of the bloodline. The cyan mark represented the bloodline of the 5th rank. The child of the Zhao family had awakened a bloodline of the 5th rank. 5th rank. The bloodline of the Lu family patriarch was only of the 4th rank. The 5th rank was a very high bloodline. If this child could survive, he would definitely become a powerful warrior that could look down upon all. Whoosh! The 3 warriors of the Zhao family rushed over and surrounded the child. Then the 3 of them cupped their fists to the elders of the temple. They left the other 9 children alone and rushed out of the temple with the child who had awakened his bloodline. Lu Yu! Patriarch Hong shouted. Lu Yu left at once. Clearly, he was going back to report to the Lu family. The Zhao family had awakened such a powerful bloodline warrior. The Lu family must find a way to deal with it. Otherwise, the Wuling County might be the Zhao family. What kind of luck does the Zhao family have? Lu Yi looked awful. She murmured in annoyance. The rest of the families were also envious. Once this child grew up, the Zhao family would be able to enjoy a meteoric rise. Silence! Shouted an elder of the divine temple. He waved his hand at the Lu family. The people of the Lu family hurriedly sent their children to the altar. Seeing that someone from the Zhao clan had awakened a 5th-grade bloodline, the rest of the people became excited. How great would it be if their own clan also awakened a powerful bloodline warrior? Unfortunately, for the next few awakenings, there was no movement from the altar. No one succeeded in awakening their bloodline. One by one, the children went in full of hope, but in the end, they all walked out dejectedly. 5 people awakened at a time, and each awakening lasted for an hour. The efficiency was quite high. Lu Li had never taken the initiative to enter the bloodline altar. He wanted to wait until there were fewer people before he awakened his bloodline altar. Also, he was already over 10 years old, so he thought he should give in to the kids. As time went by, the children of the families and the tribes outside had all awakened. Only a few people of the Lu family were left. The children were taken out. However, there were also elders from several tribes and clans who were watching the show. They wanted to see if there would be another miracle today. Go in. Patriarch Hong brought the 5 children into the altar. Then he and Lu Yi closed their eyes and prayed silently, hoping for a miracle to happen and for the Lu family to awaken a powerful bloodline warrior. No miracle happened. None of the 5 children of the Lu family could awaken their bloodline. Lu Yi looked at the remaining 3 children and Lu Li with disappointment. She waved for the 4 of them to go in. Lu Li took a deep breath and walked into the altar. Then he closed his eyes and sat with his legs crossed. The other 3 children also walked in nervously and sat with their legs crossed with their eyes closed. The 3 elders of the temple poured out their Xian energy, and the altar lit up again. At that moment, Luli somehow felt a strange force enveloping them. He could not move, and he could not even open his eyes. The white light was getting brighter and brighter. Luli could feel the dazzling white light even with his eyes closed. Under the influence of the mysterious force, he felt his blood was boiling, just like when he consumed the body refinement pellet for the first time. However, his body did not feel burning, but his blood was boiling. Bang! The entire altar suddenly trembled. The blood in Lu Li's body was boiling even more violently. He had a vague feeling. He was about to awaken his bloodline. Lu Ling did not lie to him. He could definitely awaken his bloodline, and it would be a very powerful one. Lu Yi and Patriarch Hong's eyes were filled with excitement. Lu Yi's delicate body trembled. Her face was as red as a flower, dazzlingly beautiful. The rest of the people from the tribes and the big families who were there to watch the show were all surprised. The Lu family was so lucky that they were about to awaken a bloodline warrior? Buzzing. Right at that moment, the animal tooth pendant on Lu Li's neck suddenly glowed and fluctuated. Even though Lu Li could not move his body, he could clearly feel that the animal tooth pendant was moving. Don't move, don't do anything stupid. At such a critical moment, the animal tooth pendant was agitated? Lu Li was scared to death. Please don't let the animal tooth pendant fail his bloodline awakening. Once he became a bloodline warrior, he would soar to the sky. If he missed such an opportunity, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Buzzing, unfortunately, the animal tooth pendant was agitated. Lu Li could not move his body, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Soon, Lu Li felt the animal tooth pendant suddenly became hot. The skin on his chest became boiling hot, as if it was about to burn. Dong! The altar shook violently again, twice in a row. Clearly, it was more violent than when the Zhao family kid awakened his bloodline. The three elders of the temple suddenly stood up. Lu Yi and Patriarch Hong were so happy that they cried. Could it be that a kid of the Lu family was about to awaken a bloodline of the 6th or 7th rank? Good heavens! If a bloodline of the 6th or 7th rank was awakened, the kid of the Lu family would definitely be recruited into a 5th rank royal family and be trained with all their resources. The Lu family would also be able to build a strong relationship with the kid and rise rapidly. What is going on? However, Lu Li did not feel happy at all. He felt something strange suddenly entered his chest. He could vaguely feel that something was roaring and forcing its way into his bloodline. Because of that thing, his blood was completely boiling. His blood vessels were almost about to explode. He was in excruciating pain all over his body. Hang in there. Lu Li knew that no matter what was going on, he could not make any noise, let alone move. This was the most critical moment for the bloodline awakening. If something went wrong, he might not even know how he died. As time went by, the blood in his body began to calm down. The animal tooth pendant no longer heated up, and his body gradually calmed down. The white light on the altar gradually dimmed down and eventually disappeared completely. Lu Li had already opened his eyes. He was relieved when he made sure that the animal tooth pendant was no longer glowing and he could move. Green, how can it be? Lu Yi and the others looked over at once. They saw a kid next to Lu Li with only a green mark on his neck. Everyone, including the three elders of the temple, were confused. The altar was shaking so violently. How could he only awaken a bloodline of the 4th rank? This did not make sense. Lu Li saw that everyone was staring at the kid next to him. Nobody was looking at him. He blinked and had a bad feeling. Could it be that he failed to awaken his bloodline? Whether the bloodline awakening was successful or not depended on whether there was a bloodline mark on his neck. Lu Li could not see his own neck, so he had to stand up and walk towards Patriarch Hong. Patriarch Hong glanced at him and did not pay any more attention. He continued to stare at the three kids with a frown. Lu Li's heart sank. It seemed that he did not have a bloodline mark on his neck. It was highly possible that he had failed to awaken his bloodline. Animal tooth pendant. Luli clenched his fists, clenched his teeth, and shouted in rage. Just now, he was about to succeed, but the animal tooth pendant stopped him. Chapter 42. Fourth rank bloodline? Lords, this. Lu-yi didn't care about Luli at all. She pointed at the kid and looked at the 3 elders from the temple. One of the elders from the temple walked to the kid and said in a deep voice, "Kid, there must be some more information in your head now. Think about it. That is a bloodline skill. Tell me, what is it?" Bloodline skill? Luli's pupils contracted and he trembled. He felt there was some unknown information in his head as well. Just now, he had been thinking about the bloodline awakening and didn't pay much attention to it. Now, he hurried to sort out the extra information. The kid thought about it, looked up and said, "It seems to be roaring flames?" Hearing the kid's words, Lu-yi and Patriarch Hong's expressions turned gloomy. The family patriarch of the Lu family, Lu-yi's grandpa, had the bloodline skill Roaring Flames. The bloodline that the kid had awakened was of the 4th rank. The elder from the temple nodded and said, "It is a 4th rank bloodline. There must be something wrong with the altar. That's why it shook so much." The other 2 elders nodded in agreement. Roaring Flames was a 4th rank bloodline skill. It matched the green mark on the kid's neck. It seemed that there was something wrong with the altar. Luli suddenly let out an exclamation. He was shocked. There was a lot of information in his head. After he sorted it out, he realized it was the bloodline skill, Burning Blood. He had a bloodline skill, but why was there no bloodline mark on his neck? Also, what grade of bloodline divine skill was Burning Blood? What grade of bloodline did he awaken? Everyone was attracted by Luli's surprise. They all looked over. Lu-yi frowned and asked, "Luli, what is it?" Luli wanted to tell them about his bloodline skill and ask the elder from the temple about the strange things that happened to him. But on second thought, his awakening was not normal. If he told them, he would expose the animal tooth pendant. What if others coveted it? Also, there was no bloodline mark on his neck. Would he be used as a lab rat by the temple? Luli made up his mind in an instant. He touched his nose and said to the kid of the Lu family, "How can it be a 4th rank bloodline?" I felt that the kid's blood was boiling so much that the altar shook for several times. On the mention of this, Lu-yi and Patriarch Hong became gloomy again. Everyone looked back to the kid to see if they were wrong. No matter how they looked, there was still a green mark. Lu-yi had no choice but to thank the 3 elders and left with the others. Although it was not a 6th or 7th rank bloodline, to be able to awaken a 4th rank bloodline was already not bad. If the Lu family were to be properly nurtured, they would be able to have another expert. A group of people had already gathered in the square outside, and all of them had expressions of curiosity and bewilderment. Because when the child of the Zhao family awakened, a dazzling light shone outside the temple. When the children of the Lu family and Luli awakened their bloodlines, the light was even more dazzling. It meant that there were 2 children who had awakened powerful bloodlines. Someone saw the green mark on the Zhao family's child's neck. The awakening of a 5th grade bloodline almost caused the square to boil. The Lu family boy came out. Li family Lu divine sect. Just now, the light from the temple was so blinding that everyone could not open their eyes. Anyways, 2 bloodline warriors awakened in the Wuling County. This was a grand event. The plaza was lively and people were talking about it. Lu-yi and the others escorted the kid back to the Lu family. Luli was immersed in his own strange situation. He was not in the mood to see the people at the plaza. He walked towards the Lu family in silence. Luli. What he didn't know was that someone in the crowd snorted while gnashing his teeth. If Luli saw this person, he would be filled with murderous intent. This person was Di Hua, the eldest son of Di Ba. Dihua had joined the Zhao family. He was wearing the cyan armor of the Zhao family. There were several young men with him who were all wearing cyan armors of the Zhao family. Dihua, what happened? After Lu Li and the others left, a handsome and noble young man next to Dihua asked with confusion. Dihua looked away. He cupped his fists to the young man and said with respect, "Young Master Rui, that man is Lu Li, the one who started a massacre in our tribe. If I didn't run away fast enough, I wouldn't be able to follow you." "That's him." The young man smiled coldly. He patted Dihua's shoulder and said, "Dihua, don't worry. This man is only a guest warrior of the Lu family. The Lu family won't say anything even if you kill him. How about this, you go back and send someone to keep an eye on him. As soon as he leaves the county, I will get someone to kill him for you." "Thank you, young Master Rui." Dihua quickly expressed his gratitude with joy. This young Master Rui was the #1 young master of the Zhao family. He was also the most talented genius in the entire Wuling County. He had reached the Spirit Sea realm at the age of 21. As long as he made a move, Lu Li would die for sure. "Let's go." The Lu family only has one bloodline of the 4th rank awakened. There is nothing to see. Young Master Rui waved his hand and led a group of young men towards the Zhao family with joy. Now that the Zhao family had one bloodline of the 5th rank awakened, the status of the Zhao family would rise accordingly. Maybe the Wuling County was about to change. After they entered the yard of the Lu family, Lu Yi hurriedly brought the child to the backyard. Lu Li walked towards the guest clan with a face full of doubts. "Sis." A young girl was standing at the door of the guest clan with a cane and a veil on her face. Lu Li called out to Lu Ling when he saw her. He stood there with guilt written all over his face. Lu Ling had been staring at Lu Li's neck. After a few looks, her beautiful eyes dimmed down. She dropped the cane in her hand powerlessly. Her delicate body trembled. She murmured in disbelief, "How could the awakening fail? How could it fail? No way, no way." Lu Li was frightened to see Lu Ling's delicate body trembling. She was on the verge of collapsing to the ground. He hurried over in strides to help Lu Ling. Lu Ling stared at Lu Li's neck for a while. She still could not believe it and asked, "Lu Li, you failed the awakening?" "I don't know." Lu Li did not know how to explain. He thought about it and said, "Sis, let's go inside and talk." Lu Ling's eyes lit up. She picked up her cane and entered her own yard with the help of Lu Li. As soon as they got inside, Lu Li closed the door and told Lu Ling everything that happened in the temple. "Animal tooth pendant? You were disturbed by the animal tooth pendant when you were awakening your bloodline?" On hearing this, Lu Ling's eyes were filled with anger. She sighed bitterly and said, "If nothing goes wrong, you will be able to awaken an 8th rank King Kong bloodline and get an 8th rank bloodline skill, Mystic Armor. After you release the Mystic Armor, nobody in the entire Wuling County can break your defense. This time, the animal tooth pendant has ruined you. 8th rank bloodline? Bloodline skill, Mystic Armor?" Lu Li's eyes were wide open. The highest level of bloodline was the 9th rank. If he could awaken an 8th rank bloodline, maybe the 3 5th rank royal families of the northern desert would get on their knees and beg him to join their families. "Sis, how can you be so sure?" Lu Li once again threw out his doubts. Lu Ling paused for a bit and explained, "Because we are disciples of the immediate Lu family. The Lu family is one of the 10 most powerful bloodline families of the Central Plains. Any male disciple of the immediate Lu family can awaken the King Kong bloodline and get the Mystic Armor skill. The King Kong bloodline is the most powerful defensive bloodline of the Central Plains. My father has awakened the King Kong bloodline. When he uses his bloodline skill, he can defeat any warrior of the human sovereign realm." Boom! Lu Li's mind felt as if a thunderbolt had exploded on a clear day. He trembled violently. His father, Lu Renhuang, was really a powerful warrior of the human sovereign realm. P.S. I want to collect. Chapter 43. The Lu family is not qualified for you to work for them, you can only be a guest warrior in any family. You will find that they are just a bunch of clowns after you awaken your bloodline. Lu Li remembered what Lu Ling once said. Now, he was enlightened. He also understood why there were so few impurities and blockages in his energy channels. So, he had such a powerful background? His father was such a powerful warrior. The more powerful the bloodline warrior was, the purer his bloodline would be, and the chances of his offspring to awaken their bloodline would be higher. Since almost all the males of the immediate Lu family could awaken their bloodline, then the chances of Lu Li's bloodline being awakened would be high as well. Lu Li remembered the violent shaking of the altar and the boiling blood in his body when he awakened his bloodline. He was filled with regret. If it were not for the animal tooth pendant, he was sure that he could awaken the King Kong bloodline and get the mystic armor bloodline skill. Something is not right. Lu Li suddenly thought of something. He asked in surprise, Sis, since the Lu family is so powerful and our father is a disciple of the immediate Lu family, why didn't the family come for him or us? Where is the Central Plains? Is it at the Northern Desert? The Central Plains. Lu Ling sighed and said, I don't know where the Central Plains is. Our father said that if we want to go to the Central Plains, we must use the huge teleportation formation of the 3 royal families of the Northern Desert. Therefore, I want you to join the 3 royal families of the Northern Desert and become their guest warrior. Only in this way can you be teleported to the Central Plains, to our family, the Lu family. As for why the family didn't come for our father or us, I don't know. Maybe it is because our family is too far away from here. Maybe they don't know that our father is here or that we exist. I want you to join a 5th-rank royal family so that we can teleport to the Central Plains and ask for reinforcements to save our father. Only the powerful warriors of our family can save our father and mother. Lu Ling's words made Lu Li even more excited. Ever since he was a kid, Lu Ling never talked about his father and mother. Now that she had said it, Lu Li would get to the bottom of it. He asked, Where are our father and mother? Sis, since you said that our father can beat all the human sovereign realm warriors and there are no human sovereign realm warriors at the Northern Desert, who can hurt him and trap him? Our father and mother are at the north. Pointing to the north, Lu Ling said, They are in the ice abyss, at the bottom. No one from the Northern Desert could enter the bottom of the abyss, not even the powerful warriors from the super families. So, other than going back to the clan to ask for help, no one can save father and mother. Ice abyss. Lu Li trembled again. This was the most dangerous place of the Northern Desert. It was said that not even human sovereign realm warriors could make it out alive. His parents were in the deep abyss? Lu Li took a deep breath and asked in a trembling voice, Father and mother have been missing for 15 years. Sis, how are you so sure that they are still alive? Yes. Lu Ling took out a beautiful white jade talisman, handed it to Lu Li and said, This is my father's token. There is a strand of his soul in it. If his father died, this token would also shatter. Therefore, father is definitely still alive. He's just trapped at the bottom of the abyss and can't come out. Lu Li took over the token and saw the character Lu written in bold and flamboyant calligraphy. He became more excited and his eyes were filled with passion. Because of his excitement, his body trembled incessantly. It took him a long time to calm down before he asked, Sister, how did father fall into the abyss? Was he being hunted down by enemies? No. Lu Ling shook her head and said, He went in by himself to save mother. When you were born, I was only 4 years old. But I remember it clearly. Father encountered powerful enemies and mother was injured. That was why I gave birth to you in advance. But she passed out because of excessive blood loss. By the time father came back from killing the enemies, mother was no longer breathing. Father told me some things and then he took Mother to the ice abyss. He said there was a kind of elixir in the abyss that could save Mother. But he was gone for 15 years. Lu Ling's cheeks were covered in tears as she spoke. Her beautiful face was filled with longing and worry. Listening to Lu Ling's words, Lu Li had a picture in his mind. A man came back after killing enemies, only to find his wife covered in blood and no longer breathing. Beside him was his newborn son and his daughter, who was crying her eyes out. He knelt on the ground, looked up to the sky and howled. His voice shook heaven and earth, shaking the icebergs around. In order to save his wife, he had no choice but to tell his 4-year-old daughter something. Then, bearing the pain, he left his 4-year-old daughter and newborn son behind and ran towards the ice abyss with his cold wife in his arms. He broke through many Xian beasts and jumped into the abyss with determination. Father, Mother! Thinking of this, tears rolled down from Lu Li's eyes as well. Ever since he was a kid, he rarely shed tears. But this time, he could not hold it back. His father was trapped in the ice abyss for 15 years. His mother's life and death were unknown, and his sister who lost her parents when she was only 4 years old and still had to shoulder the heavy responsibility of their father and raise him. Somehow, Lu Li felt very guilty. Suddenly, he knelt on the ground and put his head on his sister's knees. He said with guilt, "Sister, I am sorry. I am useless. It is my fault that I could not awaken the King Kong bloodline. I don't blame you." Lu Ling wiped her tears and sighed. "The animal tooth pendant was left to you by Father. This is fate. Something is not right. Father is so powerful. He didn't leave you any other treasures except for the animal tooth pendant? Also, you said you got a bloodline skill?" "Yes." Lu Li stood up straight, nodded and said, "There is more information in my mind. It is the bloodline skill, burning blood. But why is there no bloodline mark on my neck?" Lu Ling looked around to make sure that there was no bloodline mark on Lu Li's neck. She thought about it and said, "Take off your shirt and let me see." Lu Li got up and took off his shirt, revealing his well-defined muscles. Lu Ling stood up with the help of her crutches and walked around Lu Li. When she got to Lu Li's back, she suddenly exclaimed, This. Lu Ling was young, but she had always been steady. In the past, she didn't even flinch when Di Han and Di Hua came to her door. But now, she said the word "this" 3 times in a row. It was clear how shocked she was. Lu Li turned around and asked with a frown, "What is it?" "Bloodline mark." Lu Ling pointed to Lu Li's back and said, "Your bloodline mark is on your back, and it is very big. It looks like a dragon, and it is silver." "What?" Lu Li opened his eyes wide in disbelief. He hurried to his room and looked at the bronze mirror. After a few looks, he was shocked both physically and mentally. Some silver lines suddenly appeared on his back. The lines covered half of his back, forming a mysterious picture of a silver dragon hovering around. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, black, gold. These were the 9 colors of the bloodline mark, representing the 9 rank. Red was the 1st rank, gold was the 9th rank, and his was silver? Also, bloodline marks were all on the neck. This was common knowledge of the northern desert. Whether a warrior was a bloodline warrior or not depended on whether there was a bloodline mark on the neck. Therefore, Lu Li turned around and asked with doubt, "Sis, have I awakened my bloodline or not? What the hell is this thing?" Lu Ling was confused as well. She thought about it and said, "Whether you have awakened your bloodline or not depends on whether you can use your bloodline skill. Let's see." Lu Li closed his eyes and went stealthily to study the bloodline skill in his head. After waiting for an hour, he shouted, "Burning blood!" Buzzing. The silver dragon mark on Lu Li's back suddenly glowed brightly. A surge of powerful qi and energy spread out from Lu Li's body. Then his muscles swelled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. His eyes turned silver. Chapter 44. Sister. Luli opened his mouth and said in a hoarse voice. He was excited and said, I feel like I have endless power. My strength has increased by more than 3 times. More than 3 times? Heavens! Lu Ling collapsed to the ground. Her eyes were filled with ecstasy. She did not know exactly what kind of bloodline Luli had awakened, but she was sure that the bloodline Luli had awakened was not much weaker than the King Kong bloodline of the Lu family. Lu Renhuang left behind many rare books. One of them had a detailed explanation of bloodlines. Lu Ling knew something about bloodlines. It was said that all human beings had the bloodline of the ancient divine race. Everyone had a chance to awaken their bloodline through the bloodline altar, obtain bloodline skills, and become a powerful bloodline warrior. There were many types of bloodlines. Some were strong, some were weak, and there were all kinds of types. For example, they could increase strength, speed, defense, or have special abilities and divine abilities. The Vajra bloodline of the Lu clan was known as the strongest defensive bloodline in the Central Plains. It possessed the divine armor divine skill. After releasing the divine armor, an impenetrable divine armor condensed outside his body. Normal attacks were unable to break through the divine armor and harm the physical bodies of the Lu clan's disciples. Another example was the fire bloodline skill possessed by the Lu family patriarch. After he released the fire, he could easily burn his enemies to death and burn them into ashes. Because of this bloodline skill, the family patriarch of the Lu family dominated the Wuling County. The stronger the bloodline, the more powerful the bloodline divine skill. The bloodline divine skill of a low-level bloodline would be much weaker. Even a first or second rank bloodline might not have a bloodline divine skill. According to the ancient book left by Lu Renhuang, Lu Ling knew several bloodline skills. For example, the third-rank bloodline skill, Gale, could increase the warrior's speed by 50% after the bloodline skill was released. After releasing the third-grade bloodline divine skill, Steel Fist, his fist strength would increase by 60%. Even the bloodline skill of the 5th rank, Berserk Power, could only amplify strength by 2 times at most. Lu Li's strength was amplified by 3 times, which meant that his bloodline was at least of the 6th rank or above. Grade 6. It's very likely to be grade 7 or even grade 8. Lu Ling's eyes glowed. At first, she thought that Lu Li had not awakened his bloodline and she could not see any hope of saving her parent. She almost lost all hope. But now, she was alive again. With bloodline of the 6th or 7th rank, as long as Lu Li did not die prematurely, he was destined to become a powerful warrior. It would be easy for him to join a 5th-rank royal family and become a guest warrior. When the time comes, he could take the teleportation formation to the Middle Plains and easily return to the Lu family to ask the experts of the family to save his parents. While Lu Ling was pondering, Lu Li suddenly put on an expression of discomfort. Then, his chi and energy weakened and his bulging muscles retracted. His face was pale and awful. He couldn't even open his eyes. He waved his hand and said, "Sister, I'm so tired. I want to sleep for a while." With that said, Lu Li climbed into bed and fell into a deep sleep. He didn't even have time to cover himself with the blanket. Lu Ling hurried over to have a look. She was relieved to make sure that there was nothing wrong with Lu Li except that he seemed to be overworked. It seems like there's a period of weakness after using this bloodline god skill. Little brother's strength and physical body are too weak to completely withstand the bloodline god skill. Blood ignition? This bloodline divine skill can't be burning blood, right? Lu Ling murmured. She was surprised to see Lu Li's pale face. If blood was to be burned, the bloodline god skill could not be used too often. Otherwise, it could backfire on the body. Lu Ling couldn't get anything out of Lu Li while he was asleep. She observed for a while, and went outside to prepare some good food for the chief steward. Lu Li was so weak that he needed some nourishment. Lu Li slept for more than 2 hours before he woke up. He looked much better, but he was a bit tired. His eyes had returned to their normal black color. Everything else was fine. After Lu Li wolfed down the food, Lu Ling asked, "Lu Li, does your bloodline god skill require you to burn your blood?" "I think so." Lu Li sensed it and nodded. "When I released the burning blood skill, I felt the blood in my body was boiling. I only lasted for the time for half an incense stick to burn before I felt so weak that I couldn't even open my eyes." "Then don't release the bloodline god skill unless necessary," Lu Ling solemnly said. "You have to cultivate well. When your realm catches up and your physical body is stronger, you will feel better." "Sister," Lu Li asked with excitement, "I have awakened my bloodline, right?" "Yes," Lu Ling said with certainty. "You have awakened your bloodline, and it is at least of the 6th rank or above. As long as you cultivate hard, you can easily join a 5th-rank royal family and become a guest warrior in a few years." "Okay." Lu Li clenched his fists and nodded. "Sister, I will work hard. I will be able to join the guest clan of a 5th-rank royal family. Then I will teleport to the Lu family at the Central Plains and rescue my parent." The 3 5th-rank royal families were the most powerful families of the Northern Desert, standing at the top of the Northern Desert. It was extremely difficult to join the 3 families, not to mention the guest clan. If Lu Li didn't awaken his bloodline, he wouldn't even have the chance to go to the cities where the 3 royal families were. Now there was hope and a great chance. "Brother," Lu Ling thought about it and said, "don't tell anyone about the awakening of your bloodline. Also, don't release the bloodline god skill unless it's a critical moment. Wait until you have enough power and opportunity. Also, don't tell anyone about our father's name. I am afraid that he has enemies at the Northern Desert." Lu Li thought about it. What Lu Ling said made sense. The way he awakened his bloodline was strange. The bloodline mark was not on his neck, but on his back? He had never heard of such a strange thing. What if the Divine Temple caught him and used him for research? Also, the Zhao family was powerful now. It seemed to be suppressing the Lu family. If the fact that he had awakened his bloodline was known, Diba would instigate the Zhao family to kill him at all costs. Lu Li's bloodline god skill could only last for the time for half an incense stick to burn. Once he used it, he would become extremely weak. Now was not the time to expose his bloodline god skill. Lu Ling said that when Lu Li was born, his father was fighting against powerful warriors. Warriors that could fight against his father must have powerful background. If their identities were exposed, the siblings would be in big trouble. Crack, crack, a strange sound came from the corner of the room. Lu Li and Lu Ling looked over and found that Little White had woken up again and was gnawing on the abandoned Xian artifact. Seeing Lu Li looking at it, Little White beamed with joy. Its short tail kept wagging. "This little thing's appetite is getting bigger and bigger. I only see it eating. I don't see it pooping." Lu Li touched his nose and frowned. On average, the little beast would eat 2 abandoned Xian artifacts a day. At this rate, the abandoned Xian artifacts that Lu Li had exchanged for 500 contribution points would not be enough for it to eat for half a month. By then, when all his contribution points were used up, where could he get more abandoned Xian artifacts for it to eat? "Work hard on your cultivation first." Lu Ling could tell that Lu Li was worried. She comforted him. "We will cross the bridge when we come to it. Let's talk about it later. When you are powerful enough, nothing will be a problem." Lu Li nodded. He sat on the bed with his legs crossed and continued to cultivate his Xian energy. He had to break through to the later stage of the Xian Wu realm first. What kind of bloodline is this? Lu Ling sat quietly on the side, thinking about the ferocious silver dragon on Lu Li's back. She thought for a while and looked to the north. She murmured in confusion, "Father, you put the animal tooth pendant on my brother when he was born. Do you know the origin of the animal tooth pendant and that my brother would awaken the silver dragon bloodline?" "He didn't awaken the King Kong bloodline of our family, but he did awaken such a strange bloodline. Is this a blessing or a curse? P.S. Please collect it, recommend it, advertise it. If you can, give some tips. My new book needs to be protected. Please help me. Chapter 45. For the next couple of days, Lu Li cultivated in the guest clan. Apart from reading, Lu Ling was chatting with Qing Chu's wife, the guest clan patriarch. Qing Chu's wife was infertile. Lu Ling was well-behaved and sensible. Both Qing Chu and his wife liked her very much. Lu Li was happy to find that Lu Ling and Qing Chu's wife were on good terms. He cultivated all day long and Lu Ling was lonely. It was good to have someone to talk to. The Wu Ling County had been particularly quiet recently. The Zhao family had awakened a bloodline of the 5th rank. The Zhao family had been keeping a low profile these days. Disciples of the Zhao family were not allowed to go out, not to mention having conflicts with the Lu family. There was still no news from the frigid Cloud Mountain. It was said that the battle between the super families and the Beast King had reached the most critical moment. Perhaps they would be able to kill the Beast King soon. Perhaps the super families were forcefully suppressing the Lu family and did not want to cause more trouble. Chief Patriarch didn't send any message, so the Lu family didn't send any warriors to reinforce the frigid Cloud Mountain. The fact that the Lu family had awakened a 4th-rank bloodline was something to be happy about. They were probably thinking of ways to nurture that child. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Lu Li came out from his closed-door cultivation, but it was not because he had reached the peak of the Xian Wu realm. In half a month, he had only opened up 2.5 energy channels, and there was 1.5 energy channel yet to be opened up. He came out because Little White ran out of food. The little white critter's appetite was too big. It had already eaten all the abandoned profound artifacts, so it was probably starving to the point of panicking. Thus, it began to covet the heavenly Kylan blade again. If it were not for the fact that Lu Ling had noticed, the Heaven Kylan sword would have been bitten off. Looking at Little White's pitiful eyes, Lu Li clenched his teeth and exchanged the remaining 300 contribution points for abandoned Xian artifacts. Then he brought back more than a dozen abandoned Xian artifacts. The more than a dozen abandoned Xian artifacts would only be enough for Little White to eat for 7 or 8 days. Lu Li thought about it and found Qing Chu. He asked, "Patriarch Qing, how do I earn contribution points?" There were many abandoned Xian artifacts in the Hall of Weapons, enough for Little White to eat for more than half a year. The problem was that they all needed contribution points, so Lu Li had to beg. Contribution points are very simple. Qing Chu explained, every clan has a mission hall. You can accept missions, and the clan will naturally give you contribution points after you complete them. For example, you can go to the watchtower and stand guard. You'll get 2 contribution points a day. 2. Lu Li rolled his eyes. Even if he stood guard for a few days, he wouldn't be able to feed Little White once. He thanked Qing Chu and went to the Hall of Mission in the middle courtyard of the Lu family. Although Little White's food was enough for 7 to 8 days, he had to plan ahead. Otherwise, the Heaven Kylan sword would be eaten by Little White sooner or later. The mission hall was also overseen by a gray-haired old man. His combat strength was not strong, but his seniority was probably quite high. Seeing that Lu Li was a guest warrior of the guest clan, he didn't even smile. He squinted at Lu Li and asked, "What mission do you want to take?" Lu Li cupped his fists and politely said, "Lord, are there any quests in the city with high contribution points?" The gray-haired old man grunted coldly and said, "Do you think contribution points can be obtained for free? If he didn't work hard, how could he get so many contribution points? Right now, the mission with the highest contribution points in the city is to monitor the Zhao family. If you get any useful information, you'll get 100 contribution points. If there's no information, you'll get 2 contribution points per day." 2 a day? Lu Li rubbed his nose. How was he supposed to get any useful information? unless he sneaked into the Zhao family's mansion to investigate, but once he did, he would probably be instantly surrounded and killed. Unwilling to give up, he asked, "Sir, are there no other missions?" "Yes." The gray-haired old man threw the mission file to Lu Li and said, "The missions in here, as long as you can complete them, will be worth more than 1,000 contribution points. Do you have the guts to take them?" Lu Li took it over and his expressions changed. The missions here did have high contribution points, but could they be completed by humans? Dig out earth jade crystals at the edge of the ice abyss, 10,000 contribution points. Get the bone-burying mountain at the north of the ice abyss. Venom of 4th rank Xian beast silver-striped snake, 10,000 contribution points. Get Heaven Fire Lotus at the Heaven Fire Mountain, 3,000 contribution points per plant. The more Lu Li read, the more speechless he was. What the hell were these missions? Not even the chief patriarch of the Lu family dared to get close to the edge of the ice abyss, let alone the chief patriarch of the Lu family. That was the sphere of influence of the Beast King. 4th rank Xian beast silver-striped snake was comparable to a human warrior of the Fate Wheel realm. What was the difference between getting its venom and committing suicide? The Heaven Fire Mountain was a volcano. It erupted all year round. Anyone who touched the boiling lava would die. Also, Lu Li's power could not go up. Once he got close, the horrifying heat would burn him into ashes. Lu Li read on patiently, trying to find a relatively safe mission with enough contribution points. However, after reading for a long time, he realized that none of the missions were ones that he could complete. If he were to take one based on his power, he would die for sure. This mission seems good. Lu Li's eyes suddenly lit up as he found a good one. Go to the Red Stone Mountain and steal the eggs of the red phosphorus hawk. 500 contribution points per egg. Red phosphorus hawks. Lu Li once fought with Lu Yi and the others. The red phosphorus hawks were not that powerful. However, they were social animals. If Lu Li went to their nest to steal eggs, he would be hunted down by a large group of red phosphorus hawks. Also, the Red Stone Mountain was the gathering place of stone rat. It was said that stone rats and red phosphorus hawks liked to fight against enemies together. By then, there would be Xian beasts everywhere, and he would be bitten to death alive. Lu Li had heard about the Red Stone Mountain. It was 300 miles to the north of the frigid Cloud Valley. There was still a long way to go to the ice abyss. Theoretically speaking, there should be powerful warriors of different families guarding nearby. There shouldn't be any powerful Xian beasts. Lu Li was in a dilemma. It was dangerous to go to the Red Stone Mountain. On the off chance that he ran into Deba, he would be hunted to death. The problem was that if he didn't accept missions, he wouldn't have any contribution points. How was he going to feed Little White? Little White was obviously a high-level Xian beast, and it was very obedient. Now that it was wholeheartedly following him, it would be a great help to him in the future. Why are you scared? Seeing Lu Li holding the file in his hands, the gray-haired old man sneered and said, "You young people, biting off more than you can chew. You don't have a diamond, yet you want to do porcelain work? Get lost, don't waste my time." Lu Li was a little angry when he heard this. He gritted his teeth and said, "I'll take this quest." The gray-haired old man was surprised. His eyes flickered as he asked, "Are you sure? Once you accept this mission, you must complete it. If you give up, you'll lose 100 contribution points. Are you sure about that?" "I've thought it through," Lu Li forced himself to say. "All right." The gray-haired old man asked for Lu Li's ID token and recorded it down. After that, he took out a map for Lu Li and said, "This is the map to the Red Stone Mountain. You must complete the task within a month. Go, I hope you can come back alive." Lu Li left with the map. He went back to the guest clan and told Lu Ling about it. At first, he thought that Lu Ling would blame him, but to his surprise, Lu Ling nodded and said, "It's good to go out. All warriors have to fight constantly. Only by experiencing life and death can they become powerful. The moment you choose to become a warrior, you must be prepared for death. These words were left by my father. What I want to tell you is, don't just rely on brute force in a fight. You must use your brain. Also, don't give up so easily. Even if you know you are going to die, don't give up. If you die, I won't let you go alone. I will go with you to the underworld realm. Sister, Lu Li's eyes reddened. He grabbed Lu Ling's hands and started sobbing. At this moment, he bore Lu Ling's words in his mind, especially that he should not give up so easily under any circumstances. Chapter 46. Now that they had decided to go out, Lu Li began to make preparations. He and Lu Ling analyzed and concluded that it would not be too dangerous if they could hide themselves. The key was that they could not let the Zhao family know that he had left the county, and they could not be seen by outsiders on the way to the Red Stone Mountain. Lu Li and Lu Ling studied the map carefully and decided to go out from the east gate and take a detour to the Red Stone Mountain. The Red Stone Mountain was to the southeast of the Ice Abyss. People of the Wu Ling County would usually take the official road closest to the north gate to go to the Ice Abyss. It would be less likely for them to run into scouts and warriors of other families if they went from the east. There was a beast upheaval at the Ice Abyss, and the red phosphorus hawks were flying around. There should not be too many red phosphorus hawks in the Red Stone Mountain, and many stone rats must have run away. Last time, Lu Li and Lu Yi ran into stone rats in the cave, so there might not be many Xian beasts left in the Red Stone Mountain. Not many people knew Lu Li. If Lu Li could sneak into the Red Stone Mountain in disguise, steal some eggs of the red phosphorus hawks and take a detour back, he might not run into any danger. Lu Ling began to prepare Lu Li's luggage after everything was settled. Lu Li once again went into closed-door cultivation. He was ready to set off after he completely opened up his 11th energy channel and became more powerful. 3 days later, Lu Li came out from his closed-door cultivation in the afternoon. He had been working day and night for the past 3 days. Finally, he had opened up his 11th energy channel. Lu Ling prepared dried meat, water and a small tent for Lu Li. Lu Li did not leave right away. Instead, he waited until it was completely dark before he put on his luggage, put on a bamboo hat that covered most of his face, and left the Lu family quietly with Little White. He took a detour to the east gate. He was very careful on his way. He turned left and right to make sure that nobody was following him. Then he went directly to the east gate. Even though his behavior was a bit strange, he had the token of the Lu family on him, so he could get out of the county easily. He had underestimated the scouts of the Zhao family. As soon as he got out of the county gate, 2 warriors in civilian clothes came out from an alley in the corner. These 2 people were obviously from the Zhao clan. The 2 of them glanced at the east city gate, then disappeared into the alley. Lu Li did not join the external clan of the Lu family, so he did not have much contact with other warriors. He did not know the abilities of the top scouts of the families. What he didn't know was that the Lu family and the Zhao family had planted spies in each other's families. Except for the most important secrets, the 2 families knew everything about each other. However, Lu Li had picked a good time. It was late at night. When the scouts reported back to Zhao Rui, the number 1 young master of the Zhao family, Zhao Rui was having a banquet in the biggest brothel in the city. How could he be in the mood to go after Lu Li? Of course, he valued Diba and Dihua very much. After Dihua joined the Zhao family, he received resources and was about to break through to the Spirit Sea realm. He would be a great help to the Zhao family. He thought about it and then asked someone to follow Lu Li out of the city. Tomorrow morning, they would go after Lu Li. He also sent a message to the family scouts at the Frigid Cloud Mountain to pay attention to Lu Li's whereabouts. As far as Zhao Rui was concerned, Lu Li had left the county alone. No matter where Lu Li went, he was destined to die without a burial place. He was the young master of the Zhao family. If he couldn't even kill a nobody like Luli, then he wouldn't be able to hang around in the Wu Ling County anymore. At this moment, Dihua was right next to Zhao Rui. After he heard Zhao Rui's arrangement, Dihua beamed with joy. He rubbed his palms together, eager to leave the county with Zhao Rui early in the morning to cut Luli into pieces. Baopu. On the official road to the east of the county, Luli was running fast by himself. He was so close to the city, so it was easy for him to run into warriors of different families. He thought the further away he was from the city, the safer he would be. However, he was overthinking. The beast upheaval had not been completely pacified yet. Nobody was walking outside the county at night. Luli ran wildly in the cold wind by himself. He didn't run into anyone for 6 hours. It's about time. Let me find a place to sleep. It was late at night and the weather was getting colder. Luli turned into a small path in the darkness and found a cave. He took out a tattered tent from the bag on his back, wrapped himself in a tattered quilt, and fell asleep. When Luli was little, he often went up the mountain by himself. He often spent the night outside, so he had a good sleep. He slept all the way until dawn. He got up and washed himself with some water. Then he grabbed some dried meat and started to chew on it while running. Someone is here. In the county, it was crowded and noisy, so Luli couldn't find any scouts following him. However, in the wild, he had a keen sense of smell like a beast. He vaguely felt that something was not right behind him. He looked back but saw nothing. Walking in the mountains all year round, Luli was often ambushed by beasts. His intuition was very accurate. He was sure that someone was following him. After some thoughts, Luli continued to move forward quietly. After a couple of miles, there was a stone peak in front of him. Luli quickly turned into the stone peak and pressed himself against the stone wall. He held his breath and held the Heaven Kailan sword in one hand, ready to take action at any moment. Sure enough, after a moment, there came 2 light footsteps. They stopped when they were about to pass the stone peak. After the time for more than a dozen breaths, 2 figures quietly came out. "Hoi!" Luli shouted like thunder on a sunny day. He swung his Heaven Kailan sword and aimed at the head of the first warrior. The young warrior's expression changed in fear. Luli's sword was so fast that there was no way for him to dodge. He could only shout, "Don't kill me!" Bang! Luli slightly twisted his sword and hit the man's head with the back of the sword. He held back some of his strength. Even so, the man's head was still cracked and he was bleeding. Swish! Luli paid no attention to the first warrior. He raised his Heaven Kailan sword, turned around and cut at the second warrior. That warrior came to his senses and unsheathed his sword to defend against Luli's attack. How strong was Luli now? After he consumed the blood refinement pellet, his physical strength had reached more than 13,000 pounds. If he added his Xian energy, it would be at least 37,000 or 38,000 pounds. How could this man defend against such a huge force? Clank, with a muffled sound and some sparks, the man's sword was smashed away. Luli's saber went straight in and broke the man's shoulder and collarbone. Luli swept his thigh and sent the man flying. Since Luli did not know the identity of the 2 warriors, he did not kill them. He walked over in strides with the blood-stained Heaven Kailan sword in his hand. He pressed the broken sword against the second warrior's neck and asked coldly, "Who are you? Why are you following me?" The 2 warriors were not wearing armors of the Zhao family, just regular warrior robes. One of them was bleeding, holding his head and howling in pain. The other one clenched his teeth and pressed his shoulder with one hand. He glared at Luli but said nothing. Luli snorted. He lifted his leg and stomped on the man's chest. Luli's stomp was so powerful that more than a dozen ribs of the man's chest must have been broken. Blood spilled out from the corner of his mouth and his face was twisted because of the pain. Luli asked again, "I will give you one last chance. If you don't tell me, die." Luli could tell something from their eyes. They were definitely not here with good intentions. Since they were enemies, he would not show them any mercy. Bastard! The young warrior who was stepped on grimaced in pain and shouted, "How dare you hurt us? Our young master will be here soon. By then, he will cut you into pieces." Young master? Luli was confused. When did he offend a young master of a big family? Luli thought about it and moved his leg away. He asked with fear, "Who is your young master? We have no quarrel. Why do you want to kill me?" Seeing that Luli was scared, the man said with hatred, "Our young master is Zhao Rui, the #1 young master of the Zhao family. Let us go now. Or else when our young master comes, you will die without a burial place." Zhao Rui. Luli suddenly understood. They were from the Zhao family. Diba was the patriarch of the external clan of the Zhao family. It was highly possible that Diba had asked the Zhao family to help him get revenge. The Zhao family had sent someone to follow him, and the young master of the Zhao family would be here soon. It seemed that the Zhao family had found out that Luli had left the county and wanted to kill him outside the county. Bastard! Seeing that Luli's eyes were flickering, the man climbed up with difficulty and coldly said, "Surrender now and come with me to see our young master. Otherwise you will die." Whoosh! Chapter 47. Even though Luli still looked awful after this killing, he no longer had the urge to vomit. Looking at the two cold bodies, Luli soon calmed down. He did not feel guilty at all about killing the 2 scouts of the Zhao family. The Zhao family wanted to kill him and sent someone to follow him, so the Zhao family was his enemy. Since they were his enemies, he should not show any mercy. A man should kill without mercy. This was what Lu Ling taught him. Luli had always regarded Lu Ling's words as the truth. He thought about it and put the Heaven Kailan sword on his back. He carried the 2 bodies with both hands and walked into the mountain. He threw the bodies into a pile of rocks. There were many wild beasts in the wild. The smell of blood from the bodies would attract wild beasts. Soon, the corpses would be eaten up. Go! Luli wiped off the blood on his hands and body in a small pond and ran away at once. He did not go back to the county. That would be courting death. Maybe Zhao Rui had already left the county with his men and was running towards him. He would be stopped before he could get into the city. Luli had heard of Zhao Rui. Not many people in the Wu Ling county hadn't heard of him. Zhao Rui was the #1 genius of the Zhao family. He had reached the Spirit Sea realm at the age of 21. How could the Zhao family not send some warriors of the Spirit Sea realm to protect him? Therefore, his enemies would be 2 or even more than 2 warriors in the Spirit Sea realm. Not only did he possess terrifying strength, but he also had a bloodline divine skill. However, the Spirit Sea realm was still the Spirit Sea realm. The difference between the realms was like heaven and earth. Luli was not stupid. He was not so arrogant that he would look down on heroes in the world. He knew that if he was caught up, there was a 90% chance that he would be killed. He had to run. The faster and further he ran, the greater his chance of survival would be. Wait a minute. Luli suddenly realized something after he ran for a couple of miles. How could he outrun horses on the road? The Lu family had silver wolf escorts. The mounts of the #1 young master of the Zhao family might also be Xian beasts. If he kept running like this, he would be caught up with sooner or later. Up the mountain, Luli decisively ran towards the north in a straight line. Even though the mountain was difficult to walk on, it would be harder for Zhao Rui and the others to ride on horses and Xian beasts. As long as he entered the mountains and arrived at the frigid Cloud Mountain, the terrain there was complicated, and there were warriors from various clans there. It was very likely that he would be able to escape the pursuit. After thinking for a while, he caught a wolf nearby and tore a piece of cloth from his robe. Then, he used the Heavenly Kailan sword to cut his finger and dyed the cloth with blood before tying it to the wolf's body. The scouts of large clans were so powerful that he didn't even notice anyone following him last night. He had no choice but to be careful and set up a diversion, hoping that it would have some effect. He chased the jackals in another direction and ran for his life. He climbed the mountain ridges and soon disappeared into the mountains. Luli was right. In just over 2 hours, a team of cavalrymen galloped over from the west. They followed the marks left by the scouts of the Zhao family to where Luli and the scouts fought. Zhao Rui was riding a huge purple lion, clad in cyan armor, holding a black iron longbow, and carrying a silver sword on his back. He looked majestic and insufferably arrogant. Dihua was right beside him. There was a middle-aged man with a scar on his face. His breath was strong and his eyes were as cold as a poisonous snake. Obviously, he was a warrior at the Spirit Sea realm. There is blood. There were more than a dozen people with them. One of them shouted from afar. They stopped. 2 warriors of the Zhao family got off their horses to check. Soon, they reported back, "Young Master Ray, our men might have been killed. Where are the bodies? Go and find them." Zhao Rui flew into a rage. He waved his hand and the more than a dozen warriors got off their horses to search around. In just a short while, they found the bodies of the 2 scouts. Young Master Ray, they were smashed to death. One of them had all his ribs broken. The warriors of the Zhao family reported after checking. Dihua thought of something and cupped his fists in front of his chest. Young Master Ray, they must have been killed by Luli. This man was born with great strength. His physical body alone has more than 11,000 pounds of strength. Also, he doesn't know any Xian skill. He likes to hack and slash. Luli. Zhao Rui was filled with killing intent. The 2 warriors were here to track down Luli. In the Wuling County, no other families dared to kill warriors of the Zhao family apart from the Lu family. Zhao Rui immediately concluded that the scouts were killed by Luli. He clenched his teeth and shouted in a deep voice, "Spread out and search for traces. Once you find the target, send a signal at once." "Yes, young master." Apart from the middle-aged man with a scar who stayed behind, the rest of the warriors split up in pairs and fanned out to search. Zhao Rui brought the scarred man with him and waited for the news to be reported. 2 hours later, everyone gathered together. One of them carried the jackal that Luli had driven away. Some of them found that there were no footprints on the road ahead. Some of them found out where Luli really ran to. After all, there was still snow on the road, so footprints could be found. After some discussion, they soon determined Luli's escape route. For the first time, the scarred man said, "That guy is pretty smart. He should be running towards the frigid cloud mountain to find someone from the Lu family to escape." Uncle Scar is right. The reason why Zhao Rui could become the #1 genius of the Zhao family and his status was much higher than the other young masters of the Zhao family was not only because of his abnormal talent, but also because of his intelligence. He nodded in agreement and said, "If so, let's split up and go after him. Dihua, take 10 men with you and chase after Luli's footprints. Uncle Scar and I will wait at the foot of the frigid cloud mountain." Luli ran away from the inside of the mountain. There was almost no road there. How could a spoiled Zhao Rui abandon his horse to climb mountains and wade through rivers? The scarred man was Zhao Rui's bodyguard, so he could not leave Zhao Rui's side. This matter was caused by Dihua. Naturally, Dihua would not shirk his duty. He promised to do his best. He left the horse behind and took 10 men with him to chase after Luli. "Uncle Scar, let's go. We will wait up ahead." Zhao Rui nodded to the scarred man and rushed away with the scarred man and the rest of the men. "Hurry up, brothers, hurry up. After we kill Luli, I will treat you to the best brothel in the county for 3 days." In the mountain, Dihua kept urging. The incident at the frigid cloud valley was actually led by Diba, but he failed to kill Luli. Instead, the Zhao family was reprimanded by several big families. Because of this, Diba was scolded by the family patriarch of the Zhao family, which made Diba very angry. Last time when he came back, he specifically told Dihua about it. If Dihua could kill Luli this time, not only could he avenge the deaths of the people in the tribe, but he could also make the Zhao family value him and his son. Therefore, Dihua was working extra hard. His roar made the other 10 men excited. How could they go to the best brothel to have fun on usual days? Dihua was about to reach the Spirit Sea realm. On top of that, Diba was the patriarch of the external clan. In the future, Diba would have a good life in the Zhao family. Everyone was happy to help. At once, the group of men ran like crazy, chasing after Lu Li's footprint. This time, all the warriors brought by Zhao Rui were at the peak of the Xian Wu realm. They were as fast as the wind. It was not a problem for them to go over mountains and hills. There is someone over there. After running for only 2 hours, a warrior suddenly pointed to a huge mountain in the distance and said. Everyone looked over, and sure enough, they saw a small black dot climbing up the huge ridge. There can't be anyone else in the wilderness. It must be Luli. Dihua was excited. Even though the huge mountain was far away and the path was difficult, it would take them at least more than an hour to get there. But now that they had found Luli, how could Luli get away with so many of them? Go, go! Chapter 48. They are so fast. Luli felt something was wrong. He looked back and saw 11 black dots jumping and running in the mountains. Lu Li's expression turned awful. Clearly, these people had used all their Xian energy to jump so high. They were not afraid of consuming Xian energy. Lu Li, on the other hand, did not use his Xian energy. He only relied on his physical strength to climb and jump. His speed was slower than theirs. At this rate, he would be caught up with. Hoi! Lu Li was afraid that Zhao Rui and the others were right behind him. He dared not to conserve his strength anymore. He mobilized his Xian energy to his legs. He kicked the ground and jumped more than 30 feet high. Like an agile monkey, he grabbed onto a boulder and flipped onto it. Then he jumped another more than 30 feet high. In the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Lu Li had climbed to the peak. He looked back and saw 11 black dots approaching him at a fast speed. Lu Li dared not to stop and rushed forward. There was a cliff in front of him, and there were sharp stones and peaks everywhere. There was no way out. Usually, if someone wanted to go down, he would have to tie himself up with ropes and climb slowly. Otherwise, he would fall to his death. Hoi! Lu Li was bold because of his skill. He directly jumped down in big strides. He aimed at a boulder and jumped down. He rolled on the boulder to reduce the momentum, and then leaped to another boulder. Jumping from side to side, Lu Li successfully got down the mountain like an agile monkey. In front of him was a dense forest with no end. Lu Li was secretly delighted. It would be more difficult to track him down in the forest. He could not see the situation in the forest from above. Also, there was no snow in the forest, so there would be no obvious footprint. Lu Li rushed into the forest like a gust of wind. The beasts inside were startled. Many of them roared and rushed towards him. Get lost! Lu Li roared in anger. He had no time to fight with these low-level beasts. Unfortunately, the beasts had no intelligence and were not afraid of him. Lu Li chopped at a huge tiger with his Heaven Kailan's sword and smashed its head into mush. Roar, roar! More beasts in the distance were alarmed. The beasts nearby did not retreat at all. Lu Li was getting more and more annoyed. He had to wave his Heaven Kailan's sword left and right, wounding and killing the beasts one by one. Squeak, squeak! At this moment, a strange cry came from the sack on his back. Little White had actually woken up. It shouted and hopped onto Lu Li's shoulder. A surge of ferocious chi and energy spread out. Then, something strange happened. The moment Whitey released its aura, the nearby wild beasts all knelt down in fear. They were so scared that their legs turned to jelly and their bodies trembled. Ha! Lu Li was overjoyed. He quickly said to Little White, "Little White, Tell them to back off and run to all directions." Squeak, squeak. Little White seemed to have understood Luli's words. It cried out again. The beasts immediately ran away in all directions as if they had been granted amnesty. "Little White is so powerful." Luli gave Little White a thumbs up. Little White's eyes turned into crescent moons and its short tail kept wagging. Luli had no time to waste. He shouted, "Little White, go back to the jute bag. I have to run. Someone is after me." Little White didn't go back. Maybe it had slept for too long, or maybe it had eaten so many Xian artifacts that it had gained enough nutrition. Little White flew forward in a white blur. In the blink of an eye, it had landed on a tree more than 30 feet away. It stood on the tree trunk and wagged its tail at Luli. So fast! Luli was secretly surprised. It seemed that Little White's speed had increased. After eating so many Xian artifacts, its size didn't change, but its speed did. Luli ran on quickly. Little White waited for Luli to catch up and then jumped on again. Its speed was so fast that it stood on a small tree more than 30 feet away, waiting for Luli. "Turn, don't go in a straight line." Luli made a turn after running for a while. Little White caught up with him easily. No matter how fast Luli was, Little White could catch up with him easily. Also, Little White would circle around Luli from time to time as if it was playing with him. Luli had no time to play with Little White. He had to hurry on with his journey. They often ran into wild beasts along the way, including 2 Xian beasts of the first rank. But with Little White here, it was not a problem. When the 2 Xian beasts of the first rank saw Little White, they got down on their knees in fear. Little White shouted at them, and they ran away in fright. "What kind of Xian beast is Little White?" Luli was shocked again. He felt that Little White was like the king of beasts in the mountains. The chi and energy of Little White were not that horrifying, but Xian beasts and other wild beasts would be so scared that their legs would turn to jelly. "In the future, I can take Little White with me to hunt Xian beasts. It will be so easy." Luli was secretly excited. Then he remembered that he was going to the Red Stone Mountain. If all the Xian beasts in the Red Stone Mountain were of the first rank, and Little White could suppress them easily, then wouldn't it be as easy for him to steal the eggs of the red phosphorus hawks? Thinking of this, Luli was so excited that he almost did a somersault on the open ground. Wild beasts were running in all directions in the forest. It was really hard for people to catch up with him. Luli ran for 4 hours, but he didn't see anyone catching up with him. Little White got tired of playing, so it crawled back into Luli's jute bag. There were several Xian breaking artifacts in the jute bag, which Luli had prepared for Little White. After Little White ate them, it soon fell asleep. After running for another 2 hours, Luli walked out of the forest. In front of him was a vast expanse of wilderness. The view was very wide. Luli secretly felt a headache coming on. There was no place to hide in this wilderness. There was also snow on the ground. It would be easy for people to track him down. The thing was, if he wanted to go to the frigid Cloud Mountain, he had to go towards the north. The wilderness was boundless. No matter which direction he went, people would be able to track him down. "Let's go." After eating some dried meat and drinking some water, Luli ran on in a straight line. Obviously, there were masters of tracking among the 11 people. Otherwise, they wouldn't have caught up so quickly. Since there was no way to get rid of them, Luli had to get to the frigid Cloud Mountain as fast as he could. It seemed that Dihua and the others had taken a long detour in the forest, and they had to get rid of Xian Beast. They must have wasted a lot of time. Luli ran for an entire afternoon, but he didn't find any pursuers even when it was dark. He was still running in the wilderness. It was getting dark. Luli was a bit anxious because he couldn't find a place to spend the night along the way. To spend the night in the wilderness in a world of ice and snow, not to mention being bitten to death by wild beasts, he would be frozen into an ice sculpture if it snowed in the middle of the night. After running for another hour, it was completely dark. Finally, Luli found a place to spend the night. A small mountain appeared in front of him. Countless mountains rose and fell continuously, with no end in sight. There must be caves in these mountains. Even if there were none, it would be easy for him to dig one. However, before Luli entered the mountain, he already felt the qi and energy of Xian beasts, and there were quite a few of them. It was a dim night. Luli could vaguely see that the ground of the mountain in front of him was moving. When he saw it clearly, he gasped. Countless black snakes whizzed towards him. Each of them was as thick as a person's wrist. Their fangs reflected a dim light. Clearly, they were highly poisonous. The most important thing was the number of poisonous snakes. At a glance, there were at least hundreds of them. If he didn't go into the mountain, he wouldn't have a place to spend the night. If he wanted to go into the mountain, he would have to fight his way out and kill all the poisonous snakes. In the middle of the night, he might be attacked by poisonous snakes. Oh, how could I forget about Little White? Chapter 49. Swish, a white shadow came out. Little White jumped onto Luli's shoulder. It looked around and immediately shouted. The hundreds of poisonous snakes in front of them were so scared that they curled up and dared not to take another step forward. Luli gave it another thumbs up. He was about to ask Little White to disperse the snakes when he thought of something. Since Little White could suppress and disperse low-rank Xian beasts, could it control them? Luli said to Little White, "Little White, can you control these black snakes? Can you let them stay nearby and guard? The people of the Zhao clan might chase after him overnight. If he was attacked while he was sleeping soundly, he wouldn't even know how he died. If there was a group of poisonous snakes guarding here, he would be able to sleep soundly without any worries." Whitey's black gem-like eyes turned, and it actually nodded its head like a human and let out a few loud cries. The black snakes suddenly retreated to the sides and made way for Luli, but they didn't retreat. Squeak, squeak, Little White raised its head high, like a child that had done something good and was waiting for praise. Luli was overjoyed. It seemed that Little White really could control Xian beasts of the first rank. The intelligence of this little beast was incredible. Luli walked towards the snakes step by step. Those black poisonous snakes didn't dare to move. After Luli went in, they automatically blocked the way again and stayed where they were, not daring to leave. Luli walked forward slowly. After a while, he was sure that the black poisonous snakes didn't leave. He became even more excited. He put Little White down from his shoulder and patted its head happily. He exclaimed sincerely, "Little White, you are so awesome. If there is a chance in the future, I will find the most delicious food in the world for you." Squeak, squeak. On hearing this, Little White's eyes lit up. It stuck out its pink tongue and kissed Luli's palm, trying to flatter him. Little White didn't look like a powerful Xian beast at all. It was more like a domestic dog waiting to be fed. Squeak, squeak. More groups of black snakes appeared in front of them. The mountain seemed to be the nest of the black snake. There were black snakes everywhere. Fortunately, Little White was here. Otherwise, if Luli were to rush in alone, he would be in for a tough fight. He might even be poisoned to death. About 2 or 3 miles later, they had encountered more than thousands of poisonous snakes. Luli didn't dare to go further. What if there was a snake king in the depths of the mountain that Whitey couldn't suppress? After wandering around, Luli found several caves, but they were all filled with poisonous snakes and had a pungent, fishy smell. Luli had no choice but to dig a small cave with his Heaven Kylan sword and let Little White control a group of black snakes to guard within a radius of more than 1,000 feet. After making sure that it was safe, he wrapped himself in a blanket and slept soundly. After a long time, Luli was woken up by some noises. He could vaguely hear warriors shouting. His eyes quickly regained their sobriety and listened carefully for a while. He guessed that the pursuers had caught up and were most likely fighting with the snake. Good timing! A glint of coldness rose in Luli's eyes. He had no thought of running away. Instead, he was filled with killing intent. There were thousands of poisonous snakes nearby, and Little White could control them all. Luli was not afraid even if there were warriors of the Spirit Sea realm among the 11. Little White, my enemies have caught up. Help me control the poisonous snakes to attack them, Luli said to the sleepy Little White. Little White finally woke up. Seeing Luli's serious expression, Little White nodded. Luli put his mind at ease. He put away his things and sneaked towards the battlefield. It was already the eve of dawn, the darkest time of the day. It was pitch black everywhere, so dark that it could make one's heart palpitate. Luli released his Xian energy and let Little White control the black snakes to follow him with the help of the dim light. Luli circled around nearby. Little White had controlled hundreds of poisonous snakes to follow him. Let's go. Luli's confidence was boosted with hundreds of poisonous snakes. He quietly moved closer to the battlefield. He was only a couple of miles into the mountains. In the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, he had arrived at the periphery of the mountains. He saw a group of people fighting with the black poisonous snakes in the distance. Bang, bang, bang! The Xian artifacts in the hands of those people were glistening. They were waving their swords and sabers. Many snakes jumped up from the wild and attacked those people. Move! Luli moved closer slowly. After another mile and a half, he hid in a call and observed. With the light reflected by the Xian energy, Luli finally saw clearly who it was. Di Hua. Luli's eyes were burning with anger. He never expected that Di Hua was among the people chasing after him. When enemies met, their eyes would burn with rage, not to mention that Di Hua was here to hunt him down. 11 people, all warriors at the later stage or the peak of the Xian Wu realm. They are all from the Zhao family. Good, very good. Luli was relieved. But he didn't act rashly. He observed carefully to make sure that there were no powerful warriors lurking around. He shouted to Little White in a low voice, "Let the snakes surround them. Surround them several times. Nobody can escape." Little White's eyes glinted with ferocity. It screamed with excitement. The poisonous snakes immediately swarmed past Luli and Little White like 2 huge arrowheads. Move! Luli didn't even look at the battlefield. He sneaked all the way with Little White and gathered all the poisonous snakes nearby. Little White was asked to control the poisonous snakes to swarm towards the battlefield and surround Di Hua and the others in 3 circles. Luli was still worried, so he took a detour to the foot of the mountain. If Di Hua and the others managed to break out of the encirclement, he would do it himself. Di Hua once brought Di Tian with him to rape Lu Ling. He even caused her to break her leg. She had to stay in the mountains for many days by herself and finally crawled back with her broken leg. Last time, Di Hua escaped at the tribe. This time, Di Hua came to hunt them down in person. How could Luli let Di Hua escape? If he didn't kill Di Hua now, when would he? Luli asked Little White to control nearly 1,000 poisonous snakes to besiege Di Hua. He was determined to win this time. Damn, how come there are so many black scorch snakes? What about Di Hua? Should we retreat first? Or else we will all die here. Yes, we must break out of the encirclement. Otherwise, we will all be bitten to death by the poisonous snakes. The warriors of the Zhao family were in a panic. They had been entangled by the beasts in the forest for a long time. They only came here by following Lu Li's footprints at dusk. They didn't have a place to spend the night. Di Hua was afraid that Lu Li would run away during the night, so he instigated a group of warriors to hunt him down. However, he didn't expect that there would be so many poisonous snakes in the mountains. Black scorch snakes were Xian beasts of the 1st rank. Their combat abilities were not strong, but their venom was like fire. Once they were hit by the venom, they would feel as if they were being burned by fire. A large piece of skin would be corroded. That was why they were named black scorch snakes. The warriors were all wearing the cyan armor of the Zhao family. As long as they were careful, they could be hit by the venom. They all had Xian artifacts and could easily kill the black scorch snake. The problem was that there were more and more black scorch snakes. They had been running around for a day and a night. They were exhausted both physically and mentally. If they were not careful, they could die here. Retreat. 2 of the 11 warriors were injured. Dihua didn't dare to continue. He had to lead a group of warriors to retreat and break out of the encirclement. It was not easy to break out of the encirclement. The black scorch snakes were surrounding them in 3 layers. It was extremely difficult for them to break out. Fortunately, they were not too far into the mountains. If nothing went wrong, they could break out of the encirclement in an hour at most. Needless to say, Dihua and the warriors of the Zhao family were quite capable. The 8 of them formed a circle, each attacking in one direction. In the middle, Dihua and 2 other warriors were in charge of support. Even though it was difficult to break out of the encirclement, the black scorch snakes could not get close to them, let alone hurt or kill them. This won't do. Luli hid under a boulder and saw Dihua and the others slowly making their way to the foot of the mountain. He knew that the black scorch snakes alone would not be able to stop them. He had to do it himself. Kill. Chapter 50. The death-seeking crossbow was made by Lu Ling according to the ancient book. Its shooting range was not very long. It could do the most damage within a range of 6 feet. The furthest range was only 7 or 8 feet. Luli had to move forward quietly. He asked Little White to control the black scorch snakes to make way for him. He bent his body and approached quietly like a beast. He hid in a ravine and looked at Dihua and the others who were breaking out of the encirclement and getting closer to him. 20 feet, 10 feet, 7 feet. Swish, with a slight sound, a black crossbow arrow was shot out. Since the black scorch snakes around were bouncing and attacking and Dihua and the others were waving their weapons, the sound of the arrow was almost inaudible. The night was as dark as ink. A warrior of the Zhao family facing Luli didn't even notice a black crossbow arrow coming at him. Only when the arrow was about 3 feet away from him did he realize it. He hurriedly waved his weapon to block it. Unfortunately, he was still 1 step too late. The arrow pierced into his neck. There was poison of the Inyang grass on the arrow, which was highly toxic. The warrior of the Zhao family covered his neck with 1 hand and fell to the ground before he could even scream. Brother 8, what happened to you? The death of the warrior of the Zhao family shocked everyone. The formation was disrupted. A young warrior hugged the body on the ground and shouted, not caring about the black scorch snakes around him. Swish, swish, the black scorch snakes didn't care about the swarming warriors. Several black scorch snakes approached and spat out black venom. 3 warriors of the Zhao family cried out in pain. One of them was hit in the face. His face felt like it was on fire. He kept rolling on the ground in pain. The formation was completely messed up. It was messed up by their own people. There were black scorch snakes in all directions. Once the formation was messed up, the consequences could be imagined. Don't mess up, Dihua shouted. He waved his long sword and moved quickly, killing the black scorch snakes 1 by 1. The others calmed down and started to attack the black scorch snakes with all their might. They all knew very well that if they continued to mess up, all of them would die here. Swish, another sonic boom rang out as another crossbow bolt pierced through the neck of another martial artist. The sound of someone crashing to the ground startled everyone awake. It was too late for the man to cover his neck. Dihua glanced over and saw the black arrow on his neck. Dihua's eyes flickered and he shouted, "Someone is sneaking up on us. It is Luli. This is Lu Ling's arrow." Dihan had died because of this crossbow arrow. Dihua had a deep impression of the black crossbow arrow. As he waved his long sword to kill the black scorch snakes, he looked around and shouted, "Luli, if you're a man, then come out and fight me. What's the point of sneaking up on me? Luli, get out here. Luli, don't you want to avenge your sister? Come out and fight me." Dihua kept yelling, but Lu Li paid no attention to him. Lu Li put the last bolt on the crossbow and glanced around to find another target. Lu Ling once told him not to rely on brute force in a fight and to use his brain. Clearly, Dihua was trying to goad him out so that he could surround and kill him. How could Lu Li fall for it? Of the 11 warriors, 2 were killed. One was sprayed on his face and lost his ability to fight. The other 2 were shot in their thighs and arms. Their abilities were reduced as well. Therefore, there were still 6 warriors who could still fight. Of course, the 6 of them had been on the road for a day and a night. They were exhausted, so their abilities must be reduced. Lu Li dared not to take any risk. He would not make a move rashly, not to mention his life or death. If he died, Lu Ling would not live alone. He was like a poisonous snake lurking in the ravine, quietly waiting for a chance. Dihua shouted for a while. Seeing that Lu Li did not come out, he became more and more anxious. He looked at the man rolling on the ground and the 2 warriors of the Zhao family who were struggling to fight. He knew very well that if they continued to drag on, all of them would be killed by Lu Li. He could not figure out why the black scorch snakes did not attack Lu Li, but he had no time to think about it. He thought of something and said, "Break out of the encirclement. If we don't break out now, we will all die. Take Brother Three Song and retreat." One of them quickly helped the warrior whose face was sprayed by the venom to stand up. Under the protection of Dihua and the others, they managed to break out of the encirclement. Swish, Lu Li shot out the last arrow and it hit the warrior of the Zhao family who was helping Brother Three Song. That warrior was also killed in one hit and fell to the ground. Brother Three Song was trying to bear the pain. Naturally, he fell to the ground as well. The 2 warriors behind him were knocked back for a few steps. Hiss, hiss, the formation was disrupted again. Poisonous snakes swarmed over from all sides. In the chaos, 2 more warriors were sprayed by the venom of the black scorch snake. They let out heart-wrenching screams. This time, Dihua saw where the arrow came from. He didn't care about the warriors of the Zhao family anymore. He pointed to the front in rage and said, "Lu Li is over there. Come with me and kill this bastard." The 2 warriors of the Zhao family were filled with murderous intent after they heard this. They carried their swords and followed Dihua, not caring about the lives of the people behind them. At this moment, there was only one thought in their minds, which was to cut Lu Li into pieces. Good timing! Lu Li sneered to himself. He put down the bundle on his back and rushed out from the valley with the Heaven Kailan sword in his hand. The long sword cut through the air and cut towards the face of Dihua, who was at the front. Lu Li coldly shouted, "Dihua, there is a way out for you. Instead of going to heaven, you break into hell. Die." Hiss hiss, of course, Lu Li used his full strength in this furious move. His Xian energy glowed and his Qi and energy surged. His physical strength was more than 13,000 pounds. When he used his Xian energy, it could reach more than 37,000 to 38,000 pounds. How ear-piercing was the sound created by such a huge force. Dihua's eardrums were hurting. He was terrified. He saw a huge black saber coming at him. He could guess the strength of this move without needing to block. Maybe it was because of Lu Li's bravery in the battle at the tribe. Dihua felt some fear out of instinct. Without thinking, he dodged to the side, not daring to fight against Lu Li head-on. There was a warrior of the Zhao family behind Dihua. Since Dihua dodged, the Heaven Kailan sword naturally cut towards him. He did not know how powerful Lu Li was, so he raised his long sword to block. He was even ready to cut open Lu Li's chest and stomach. His idea was too naive. He only felt a huge force coming at him and his long sword was smashed away. The Heaven Kailan sword went straight ahead and cut his body into 2 halves. Even the Xian artifact armor he was wearing was cut open. There was another warrior of the Zhao family behind Dihua. He was dumbfounded. Was Lu Li a warrior of the Xian Wu realm or the Spirit Sea realm? How could he cut a man into pieces with just one move? The warrior was dumbfounded, but Lu was not. He swung his long saber as fast as lightning and swept towards that warrior's neck in a beautiful arc. That warrior finally came to his senses. He blocked with his long sword out of instinct. Needless to say, the long sword was smashed away. The next moment, his head flew up and blood gushed out. How! Dihua stared at Lu, who was as ferocious as the god of slaughter. Was this still the good-for-nothing that was bullied by Dihua and the others back in the tribe? Killing a warrior at the peak of the Xianwu realm was as easy as chopping cabbages. Also, there was clearly Xian energy glowing on Lu. Dihua. Holding the Heaven Kailan sword that was dripping with blood, Lu turned around and looked at Dihua. A smile appeared on the corner of Lu's mouth, but it made Dihua feel that Lu was more horrifying than a demon. Lu said with a cold smile, "How is the feng shui of this place? Are you satisfied with it as your burial place?" Chapter 51. Since he was born, Dihua was the pride of the tribe. He enjoyed all the glory and splendor. He was treated like a lord by many people in the tribe. He enjoyed this kind of life very much. He came to the Zhao family to become stronger so that he could have a higher status and enjoy more glory and splendor. Therefore, he was afraid of death. He could not bear to part with the superior life, the beauties in the Wu Ling County, and the bright future. When Lu was about to kill him in the Dilong tribe, he ran away. At this moment, he was scared out of his wits. Lu could kill warriors at the peak of the Xianwu realm as if they were cabbages. Even though Dihua was a bit stronger than the other two, he still felt that he was no match for Lu. Therefore, he was stunned for a second. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to run. He wanted to run as far as he could to his father. He did not want to die. Dihua shouted, "All of you, surround and kill Lu." Just like in the tribe, Dihua turned around and ran after he shouted. However, this time, Lu would not be fooled. Also, Dihua forgot one thing. It was not a flat land ahead of him. There were many poisonous snakes. It just so happened that those poisonous snakes had received Little White's order and would not attack Lu. Lu did not have to look back to know that there was still some distance between him and the people behind him. He carried his Heaven Kailan sword and rushed towards Dihua in stride. The few remaining warriors of the Zhao family in the distance were furious when they saw Dihua running away by himself. If it were not for the fact that Dihua forced himself to go up the mountain, how could so many of them die? On top of that, Lu's bravery made them want to retreat. They left Dihua alone and helped him to break through the encirclement on the left. Swish, swish, in front of Dihua, poisonous snakes swarmed towards him. Dihua was furious, but there was nothing he could do except to kill them with his long sword. Lu rushed towards him. He swung his Heaven Kailan sword in a semicircle and cut at Dihua's back. Hearing the sound of wind, Dihua rolled on the ground and dodged Lu's attack. His long sword flashed and cut two poisonous snakes in half. He turned around and looked at Lu, clenched his teeth and said, "Lu, I have wronged you and your sister. You also killed Di Tian and the others. My father is now the external clan patriarch of the Zhao family and is highly valued by the family patriarch. Killing me will do you no good. If you let me go, how about we put an end to this?" What responded to Dihua was a huge broken sword with a whistling sound. Lu didn't want to waste any more words with Dihua. His eyes were as determined as steel. He would not stop until he killed Dihua. Clang, clang, Dihua could only clench his teeth and retaliate. His long sword slid and the heavenly Kailan blade created sparks. Lu used the Xian skill, Water Cloud Sword, passed down to him by Diba. Even though it had the word sword in its name, it was still quite powerful when used with a sword. The sword moves were endless like waves. Lu was forced to step back. What a pity! The venomous snakes in the vicinity kept attacking him. Dihua only attacked for 7 or 8 times before he had no choice but to withdraw his sword and fend off the venomous snakes that were shooting at him. Lu Li saw his chance. He held his saber with both hands and hacked at Dihua for 4 or 5 times. Clang, clang, clang. Dihua was prepared for this. He held his sword tightly and managed to block Lu Li's attack. His hands were numb, and the blood in his chest was churning. His ears were ringing, and he was seeing stars. Chi, 2 venomous snakes sprang up and spat out venom. One of them hit the back of Dihua's neck, and the other hit the left side of his head. The venom of the black scorch snake was highly corrosive. Dihua instantly felt as if the back of his neck and the left side of his head were on fire. He reached out his hands and scratched off several pieces of skin. He cried out in pain. Swish, taking advantage of your weakness, Lu Li thought to himself. A glint of coldness flashed in his eyes. His long saber glowed and he hacked at Dihua's head. Lu Li exerted all his strength in this move, trying to kill Dihua with one move. No, Dihua shouted in terror. He actually stopped fighting back. Instead, he knelt down and shouted, Lu Li, I am wrong. Don't kill me, don't. Lu Li's sword momentum paused for a moment. Then the long saber continued to cut down. Dihua's head was split open like a watermelon. His body was almost split into 2 halves. He could not be more dead. If it were before, Lu Li might have stopped just now. During the battle in the tribe, Lu Ling's words of warning were still echoing in his ears. Lu Li grew up with Lu Ling and was deeply influenced by her. After several battles, he had become cold-blooded and merciless. There was only one thought in his mind when facing his enemies, and that was to kill without mercy. Looking at Dihua's body for a moment, Lu Li calmed himself down. He looked into the distance and his eyes became cold again. Carrying his Heaven Kailan sword, he ran away madly. Those men did not go far. Apart from 2, all of them were wounded. 2 of them were seriously injured. They would not be able to walk without someone's help. In the direction they were running towards, there were countless black scorch snakes. The result was self-evident. Even though Lu Li did not know Xian's skill, his strength was comparable to that of a warrior of the Spirit Sea realm. Little White had been following him, so the poisonous snakes would not attack him. On the other hand, the enemies had to worry about the poisonous snakes' attacks and had to protect their companions. The gap between their fighting capacities was too wide. In just the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the few that ran away had all turned into cold corpses. The only one left had one leg cut off. Lu Li was decisive in his killing and showed no mercy. Of course, he left one alive to interrogate the enemy. He asked Little White to control the poisonous snakes to move away. Stepping on the warrior of the Zhao family with a broken leg, Lu Li said in a cold voice, How many people are after me? Where is Zhao Rui? This time, Zhao Rui did not show up. Lu Li was worried. That man's leg was broken. He was trembling because of the pain. A glint of hatred appeared in his eyes. He clenched his teeth and said, Kill me if you want. If I tell you, all my family members will die. If you are a man, then give me a quick death. It seemed that this man's family members were all in the Wuling County. He was afraid that the Zhao family would seek revenge, so he kept his mouth shut. Lu Li thought about it and said in a cold voice, If I don't tell you, nobody will know that you told me. How can the Zhao family make trouble for your family? And if you don't tell me, I will kill your entire family when I get back to the county. I am a man of my word. That man spat out some blood. His eyes flickered and he said helplessly, Young Master Rui and Uncle Scar went to the frigid cloud mountain to stop you. There are 4 or 5 of them. Young Master Rui and Uncle Scar are both at the initial stage of the Spirit Sea realm. I have told you. Give me a quick death. Swish! Lu Li swung his Heaven Kailan sword and gave the man a quick death. Lu Li frowned and his mind was weighed down. He had guessed right. There were 2 warriors of the Spirit Sea realm here, and they were waiting for him at the foot of the frigid cloud mountain. Maybe they would mobilize the warriors of the Zhao family in the frigid Cloud Mountain. If Luli still wanted to go to the Red Stone Mountain, he would be in grave danger. Squeak, squeak, Little White ran over happily. It grabbed a handful of Xian artifact and started to chew on it. It finished the Xian artifact in no time. Don't chew on this. These are all Xian artifacts. They are valuable. Luli felt his heart ache. The Xian artifacts these people carried were above the third rank of the human grade. They could be worth a lot of golden leaves. Luli collected all the Xian artifacts and searched around in the corpses. He got some golden leaves and 2 secret books. Then he carefully collected all the crossbow bolts. It was not easy to make these bolts, and there was too little poison. Lu Ling only made 4. She used 1 to kill Di Han at the Di Long tribe. Now there were only 3 left. Naturally, Luli wanted to get them all back. Dawn was breaking in the east. The sky was getting brighter. Luli glanced at the 2 secret books in the glow. He lost interest when he found they were only Xian skills of low levels. He threw them into his bag and left them there. Luli tied the Xian artifacts with the bag and shouted to Little White, "Get some poisonous snakes here. Eat all the corpses. Don't leave any traces." Little White screamed. Countless poisonous snakes swarmed over and started to eat the corpses. Soon, all the corpses turned into white bones. The armors were all in tatters. At first, many armors were intact. However, those were the armors of the Zhao family, so Luli would not wear them. What should I do? Luli left the battlefield and went back to the wild. He sat on a rock, drinking water and eating dried meat. He was deep in thought with the map given by the Hall of Missions in his hand. If he took a detour back, it should be safe. However, he would not be able to complete the task this time. 100 contribution points would be deducted, and Little White would have no food. If he went to the frigid Cloud Mountain, it would be extremely dangerous. He might die in the mountain. Let's go. Finally, Luli looked at Little White and ran towards the north with his teeth clenched. This little beast was amazing. It could control Xian beasts of the first rank now. Once it grew up, its valiance would be beyond Luli's imagination. Chapter 52. The frigid Cloud Mountain was the south gate of the Ice Abyss. To go to the Ice Abyss, one had to cross the frigid Cloud Mountain unless they took the ancient chariot or the iron-armored ship. It was because there were swamps on both sides of the frigid Cloud Mountain. Poisonous insects were lurking in the swamps, and the miasma was dense. Even warriors of the Soul Pond realm dared not to go in recklessly. If Luli, at his realm, went in, he would definitely die. Therefore, Luli had no choice but to run towards the frigid Cloud Mountain. It was safe on the way. He only ran into some lone Xian beasts of low ranks, which Luli took care of easily. After running for more than half a day, Luli finally arrived at the frigid Cloud Mountain in the afternoon. He didn't dare to approach it, so he found a cave and rested for 2 hours. It wasn't until dusk that he sneaked toward the frigid Cloud Mountain. He sneaked into a forest and continued to approach the foot of the frigid Cloud Mountain. After running for a few miles, he climbed up a huge tree and used the dark red leaves as a cover to look at the frigid Cloud Mountain. Someone's here. The frigid Cloud Mountain was very steep. There was only one path leading to the mountain. At the entrance of the path, Luli saw some black dots. There was even a tent next to them. Damn it! Luli quietly climbed down and cursed to himself. It was obvious that Zhao Rui was waiting for him at the intersection. If Luli wanted to go up, he would have to fight with them, unless he didn't want to go up anymore. In Zhao Rui's mind, Luli was no match for Dihua and the others on his own, so Luli could only flee towards the north. Even if he was not killed by Dihua and the others, they could easily kill him if he arrived here. Therefore, he had even set up his tent. It was obvious that he did not take this matter to heart. Luli climbed down from the tree and began to ponder as he chewed on his food. The path up the frigid Cloud Mountain was too steep. Other than this mountain path, the only other way was to climb up the steep walls on both sides. Climbing was not a problem, but Zhao Rui and Uncle Scar were both at the Spirit Sea realm. Once there was any movement, they would be noticed. If he was discovered while climbing the cliff, the consequences would be unimaginable. Using the bloodline divine skill? Luli was tempted, but he immediately rejected the idea. Even if he used his bloodline skill, he was not sure that he could kill a Spirit Sea realm warrior. His bloodline skill could only last for the time it took for half an incense stick to burn. After that, he would be too weak to open his eyes. By then, he would be dead for sure. Time passed by slowly and the sky was getting dark. It was even more difficult to climb the cliff after dark. If one was not careful, he might fall down the cliff, sha sha sha. Right at that moment, there came a faint sound from the distance. Luli was alarmed and looked to the northwest. After a while, his eyes lit up. Giant ants crawled out of a hole in the west. These ants were completely golden, and each of them was as big as a fist. There were even golden fangs at the corners of their mouths that reflected a cold light. Golden ants. This was a very common type of mystical beast in the mountains. It was also a level 1 mystical beast with strong defense and could move like the wind. Moreover, it would appear in groups, numbering in the hundreds or thousands. An idea came to Luli's mind. He approached the golden ant and called Little White out. Those golden ants were madly rushing towards Luli. But as soon as Little White's chi and energy leaked out, they all crouched down in fear, not daring to move. Ants of gold keep coming out of the hole, but they are all suppressed by Little White. More and more ants of gold come out. When it gets dark, there are more than 1,000 ants of gold. All right, Little White, control them to charge towards that mountain path and attack all the humans they encounter. Luli ordered Little White. Little White made some strange sounds. Groups of golden ants rushed towards the frigid cloud mountain like a magnificent army. Looking from afar, it was a magnificent scene of golden ants. Luli did not take action right away. He climbed up a big tree and observed. The golden ants were fast. They rushed out of the woods towards the mountain path. In the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, they had reached the mountain path and were rushing towards several people in the distance. Young Master Rui, there are Xian beasts. Uncle Scar, there are so many golden ants. Luli vaguely heard some people calling young Master Rui and Uncle Scar. His eyes turned cold. It was indeed Zhao Rui and his men that were trying to stop him. The battle broke out over there. There were 2 warriors at the Spirit Sea realm. The thousands of golden ants were not enough. It was only a matter of time before they were killed. Go, Luli took the chance and ran towards the left. With the golden ants distracting Zhao Rui and his men, he should have enough time to climb up from the cliff on the side. Luli sneaked all the way and took a detour for more than 3 miles. Then he quietly turned back towards the frigid cloud mountain. He found a cliff that was relatively easy to climb. He took a few deep breaths and started to climb up like an ape. The cliff here was at least several thousand feet high. It was dark outside, so Luli dared not to climb too fast or make too much noise. Zhao Rui and his men were only more than half a mile away from here. It would be easy to alarm them. Once he was discovered, one of them could go to the top of the cliff and attack from 2 sides. Fortunately, the golden ants were attacking people. Nobody paid attention to this side. The strange sounds of the golden ants and the angry roars of the warriors were rising and falling. Even if there was some noise here, they wouldn't be able to hear it. Luli didn't use his Xian energy. With his physical strength, he could even climb tens of thousands of feet, let alone thousands of feet. He looked around, looking for a foothold. Every now and then, he would jump onto the protruding boulders and climb up quickly like an agile ape. 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet. Luli was breathing heavily on a boulder. He looked up and saw that he was less than 1,000 feet away. The fight over there was not over yet. Luli was a bit relieved. As long as he could climb up to the top of the frigid cloud mountain, it would be almost impossible to find him due to the complicated terrain. Luli looked over quietly. He could vaguely see the Xian energy glaring and the golden ants surging and roaring. Luli took a few breaths and started climbing again. He found a good path. If everything went well, he could easily climb up the cliff in the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn. Chirp, chirp, it just so happened that after the time it took for 1 incense stick to burn, when he was only several hundred feet away from the top of the cliff, a cyan eagle flew towards him from the distance. It dived towards Luli as if it wanted to eat him as its dinner. Luli cursed to himself. He was holding onto the boulder with both hands. How could he have the chance to use his saber? He was several thousand feet away from the ground. He dared not to let Little White out. What if it accidentally fell to its death? Hurry, hurry, hurry! He had to make up his mind and climb with all his might. He tried to get to the top of the cliff before the cyan eagle got close. He tried his best and climbed as fast as he could. Unexpectedly, something unexpected happened again. Boom! A protruding boulder suddenly loosened. Luli almost fell down. At the critical moment, he grabbed onto a pine tree next to him with his other hand. However, the boulder rolled all the way down, making a loud noise. What is that sound? There is someone over there. A roar came out, followed by a deep male voice. It seems to be Luli? Go after him. Don't worry about the golden ant. Damn it! Luli cursed. The cyan eagle had arrived. Luli flipped to the side and stood on a boulder. He took out the Heaven Kylan sword from his back and hacked at the beak of the cyan eagle. Chirp! The cyan eagle let out a sad cry. Its huge body was smashed away by Luli. Blood stained the sky. Luli made sure that the threat of the cyan eagle was over. He dared not to stay any longer. He climbed up as fast as he could. So unlucky! Chapter 53. It was getting darker. Luli was running for his life in the mountains. His eyesight was getting worse and worse, and it was getting harder for him to run. He fell into ravines several times. However, it was difficult for him to run, and so was Zhao Rui and the others. He was by himself, but there were 6 or 7 of them, which was to his advantage. Zhao Rui, who was chasing after Luli, noticed the problem. The mountain roads were hard to walk. He had lived like a prince, so he was injured by thorns in many places. He even fell down several times, with bruises all over his face. Zhao Rui thought about it and said, "Uncle Scar, we cannot catch up with him like this. How about you go after him by yourself and kill the bastard when he gets away?" Uncle Scar raised his eyebrows and shook his head. "No. My mission is to protect young master. I cannot leave him for even a moment. This is the frigid cloud mountain. What if there is a powerful Xian beast?" Zhao Rui said carelessly, "It is because this is the frigid cloud mountain that there will be no danger. How many lines of defense have the powerful warriors of the families formed? That bastard is not far away. You can kill him soon if you run at full speed. We will wait here for you. We will not run away." Uncle Scar was still hesitant. He didn't care if he could kill Luli or not. What he cared about was Zhao Rui's safety. Zhao Rui became anxious. He said with a serious expression, "The young masters of the families know that I am here to kill Luli. If Luli manages to get away and get back to the county, where can I put my face? It will also affect the dignity of the Zhao family. Uncle Scar, please." "Okay," Uncle Scar sighed helplessly. He told Zhao Rui and the others to stay here and not to go anywhere. Then he used his Xian energy and ran forward as fast as he could. Even though Uncle Scar and Zhao Rui were both at the initial stage of the Spirit Sea Realm, there was a huge gap in their combat abilities. Uncle Scar ran wildly in the mountains by himself, jumping and running like a giant ape. He never lost his footing and fell into ravines. He was running in the direction Luli escaped to. He could easily find Lu Li's tracks along the way. His speed was twice as fast as Lu Li's. In the time it took for just 3 incense sticks to burn, he could faintly hear Lu Li running in front of him. "Bastard, where are you going?" he shouted and sped up again. Lu Li seemed to have heard the roar of thunder. His expression changed. Only warriors of the Spirit Sea realm could catch up so fast. Spirit Sea realm. A Xian martial realm martial artist had to open 12 meridians in order to condense the Spirit Sea. Out of the millions of Xian martial realm martial artists, less than 1,000 people could successfully condense the Spirit Sea. One could imagine how difficult it was to condense the Spirit Sea. Once the condensation was successful, the martial artist's strength would multiply because the deity sea was very magical and could store a large amount of Xian energy. The Xian energy that Lu Li cultivated could only be stored in his energy channels. How much Xian energy could be stored in his energy channels? Furthermore, the profound energy in the meridians could easily dissipate into the flesh and bones. The divine sea was different. With the deity sea, a martial artist could store 10 times, or even 100 or 1,000 times more profound energy. More importantly, profound strength would be tempered in the divine sense sea, become more condensed, and its power would increase by several folds. In the northern desert, there was a saying that the realm could crush the enemy. A warrior of a higher realm could easily crush hundreds of warriors of a lower realm. If there were no unforeseen circumstances, it would be impossible for someone to challenge someone of a higher cultivation level. Lu Li had divine energy. He was no weaker than a warrior at the initial stage of the Spirit Sea realm. He might even be stronger. The thing was, a fight was not only about strength, but also about speed, reflexes, Xian skills, fighting experience and many other factors. Lu Li's heart sank at this moment. Hearing the whistling sound behind him, and sensing the powerful qi and energy from Uncle Scar, Lu Li was overwhelmed with despair. "I cannot give up. Even if I know I will die, I cannot give up so easily. If I die, my sister will not live alone." At this moment of life and death, Lu Li thought of Lu Ling. To his surprise, he gradually calmed down. He thought quickly, trying to find a way to defeat the enemy. There were no Xian beasts nearby, so Little White could not be of use. Nobody was found either. Reinforcements could not be counted on. Lu Li thought about it and realized that he could only rely on himself. Fight! Lu Li made up his mind and stopped running after some thoughts. He put the bag aside, held the death-seeking crossbow in one hand and the Heaven Kylan sword in the other. He took a deep breath and waited for the enemy to come closer. Since he could not run away, he might as well fight with his life. He might have a chance of survival. Squeak, squeak, Little White actually poked its head out of the bag. Lu Li looked at it and said seriously, "Little White, I am about to fight a powerful enemy. If I die in the fight, run away immediately. If there is a next life, I will help you find the best food in the world." Squeak, squeak, Little White showed a trace of anxiety in its eyes. A man was running towards Lu Li from the distance. Lu Li paid no more attention to Little White. He held his sword and jumped onto a boulder, waiting quietly. Swish! Uncle Scar was standing 30 feet in front of Lu Li. He glanced around coldly. After making sure there was no ambush, he sneered. The scar on his face kept twisting, making him look very ferocious. He said in a deep voice, "Why don't you run away? Punk, I thought you were good at running away?" Lu Li's mind was at peace. Maybe he knew he was going to die, so he decided to risk everything. He coldly said, "You are at the Spirit Sea realm, and I am at the Xian Wu realm. You are more than 10 years older than me. How can I run away? Are all the people of the Zhao family as shameless as you? Why can't you let Zhao Rui fight me in person?" Lu Ling had warned Lu Li to use his brain and not rely solely on brute force. Therefore, Lu Li wanted to try goading him. He used to use this trick when he was fighting with beasts. Once the beasts were completely enraged, he could find their flaws and kill them. However, his trick was clearly a bit immature. The corner of Uncle Scar's mouth twitched, but he was not moved. Instead, he mocked, "Punk, I joined the Zhao family when I was 13. I have been making a living on the edge of a knife for more than 20 years. Don't use these little tricks of yours. Do you want to go with me to see young Master Rui, or do I have to carry your dead body back?" "Go with you?" Lu Li frowned. There was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. He said, "If I go with you to see young Master Rui, can I live?" "I don't know," Uncle Scar said with a straight face, "but if you don't go with me, you will die now. It's your choice." Lu Li thought about it for a while, made up his mind and asked again, "I am only a guest warrior of the Lu family. Quit the Lu family and join the Zhao family, will you kill me?" "I don't know." The answer to Lu Li was still 3 cold words. Uncle Scar paused for a bit and added, "Whether you live or die will depend on young Master Rui's mood." Lu Li fell into silence again. When Uncle Scar lost his patience, Lu Li made up his mind. He nodded and said, "Okay, I will go with you to see young Master Rui. You are at the Spirit Sea realm. If I fight with you, I will die for sure." Lu Li jumped off the boulder, picked up the bundle and put the Heaven Kylan sword into the belt on his back. He walked towards Uncle Scar dejectedly and helplessly. "You know what's good for you," Uncle Scar sneered. He looked at Lu Li sarcastically and said, "You want to win against me? I can kill you with a single move. You walk in front of me and don't make any strange moves. Otherwise, don't blame me for being cruel." "Is that so?" Right at that moment, Lu Li raised his head and threw the bundle at Uncle Scar. The death-seeking crossbow hidden in his sleeve shot out. At the same time, he pulled out the Heaven Kylan sword backhandedly with his other hand. He mobilized his Xian energy and hacked at Uncle Scar with all his strength. From the beginning to the end, Lu Li never thought about surrendering. Diba was a patriarch of the Zhao family, and he killed more than a dozen warriors of the Zhao family. How could the Zhao family tolerate him? Chapter 54. Lu Li was only 5 feet away from Uncle Scar. At first, he threw out the bag and then shot the arrow. If Uncle Scar was shot by accident, then everything would be perfect. However, Lu Li had underestimated the reaction speed of a warrior of the Spirit Sea realm. Uncle Scar reacted as soon as Lu Li moved. Especially when Lu Li shot the arrow, Uncle Scar felt something was wrong. He dodged to the left at once. Both the bag and the arrow missed their target. Lu Li's Heaven Kylan sword was supposed to be vertical, but he had no choice but to change the direction and sweep it horizontally. Clank, clank, Uncle Scar unsheathed his long sword and swept it horizontally as well. However, the angle of his sweep was quite good. He hit the broken part of Lu Li's Heaven Kylan sword. A muffled sound came out and sparks flew. Lu Li felt a huge force coming towards him. His right hand became numb and his chi and blood tumbled in his chest. He was forced to step back. "Punk, you are courting your own death." Uncle Scar was enraged. He dashed towards Lu Li like a huge beast. His long sword generated so many sword shadows that Lu Li couldn't even see them clearly. All he could see were the stars enveloping him. Nobody could tell which ones were real sword. Lu Li felt there was no way to escape to the left, the right and the front. Lu Li had to keep retreating. But how could he be faster than Uncle Scar? Seeing that he was about to be stabbed, Lu Li made up his mind. He held the Heaven Kylan sword in both of his hands and swung it at Uncle Scar's head with great force, regardless of Uncle Scar's sword. A life for a life. Lu Li adopted the most brutal method. His sword was fast, and the distance between them was so close. Even if Uncle Scar could stab him to death, Lu Li was confident that he could hit Uncle Scar and at least injure him badly. He was overthinking. Warriors of the Spirit Sea realm had a huge advantage over warriors of the Xian Wu realm. What was more, Uncle Scar had been living on the edge of a sword for more than 20 years. What had he not seen? Clank, clank, Uncle Scar waved his long sword and pulled on the Heaven Kylan sword. Sparks flew everywhere. He turned his body and his long sword slid towards Lu Li's right hand. Clearly, his Xian artifact was of a high rank. It was at least of the 8th or 9th rank of the human grade, if not an Earth-grade Xian artifact. Once Lu Li was cut by Uncle Scar, he would lose one hand. So good. Lu Li was secretly shocked. His speed and reaction were much slower than Uncle Scar's. At this rate, he would be easily killed by Uncle Scar. At this moment of life and death, Lu Li dared not to conserve his strength anymore. He shouted, "Burning blood!" That's right. He used his bloodline divine skill. If he didn't use it now, he would never have the chance to use it again. Buzz! His back glowed faintly, and the silver dragon pattern lit up. All the muscles in his body swelled up, and a surge of power surged into his muscles. His eyes also turned silver, and he felt the blood in his body boiling. His body was filled with endless energy, and the aura on his body suddenly became abnormally violent and tyrannical. Uncle Scar was shocked. He could feel that Lu Li's qi and energy had become more horrifying. He felt that Lu Li's qi and energy were more powerful than his. In the old days, Lu Li was no different from an ant to him. Now, this ant had turned into a huge lion. How could he not be surprised? There were 3 ways for a warrior to enhance his fighting capacity in a short time. The first was to take some strange pellets, the second was to use some powerful secret skill, and the third was to release his bloodline divine skill. Lu Li clearly didn't take any pellets, and he couldn't have any powerful secret skill. Not even the Lu family could. The only explanation was that he had released his bloodline divine skill. Therefore, Uncle Scar looked at Lu Li's neck out of instinct. He was even more surprised because there was no bloodline mark on Lu Li's neck. Hoi! Uncle Scar hesitated for a bit, but Lu Li didn't. He swung his long saber and knocked away Uncle Scar's sword. Then he swung his Heaven Kylan sword and hacked at Uncle Scar's neck for several times. Uncle Scar came to his senses. He put away all the doubts in his mind and focused on the fight. He lifted his long sword to block and was ready to retreat at the same time. However, something went wrong as soon as he blocked. Lu Li's bloodline divine skill was freaky. He had released it once before, and he clearly felt that his strength had increased by more than 3 times. What did 3 times mean? Lu Li's physical strength was now more than 13,000 pounds. 3 times would be more than 100,000 pounds. The strength of warriors at the peak of the Spirit Sea realm was only about 100,000 pounds. If Lu Li's previous move was like a strong man smashing at Uncle Scar with a wooden stick, then this one was like a dragon swinging its tail. Boom! Uncle Scar's long sword was knocked away. Lu Li took the chance and hacked at Uncle Scar's head with his saber, trying to cut his head into halves. Uncle Scar was indeed a warrior who had gone through hundreds of battles. At this critical moment of life and death, he managed to twist his body to the right and then rolled on the ground for several times, narrowly dodging Lu Li's fatal move. So fast! Lu Li once again exclaimed about the power of the Spirit Sea realm. He dared not to stop. He kicked on the ground and rushed forward like a huge beast. He swung his Heaven Kylan sword and hacked at Uncle Scar continuously. His bloodline divine skill could only last for the time it took for half an incense stick to burn. He must kill Uncle Scar in that time, or else he would be the one to die. How come this guy became so powerful all of a sudden? Uncle Scar was shocked. The hand that was holding the sword was still in pain from the impact. He could only roll on the ground in embarrassment under Lu Li's continuous attacks. Without his weapon, he could not use all his Xian skills. He could not fight against the Heaven Kylan sword with his fists, could he? Lu Li's speed was too fast. It was dark outside, so he could not see clearly. Uncle Scar's thigh was cut by Luli in a moment of carelessness. A piece of flesh was cut off, revealing his bones. Uncle Scar rolled on the ground in pain and dodged Luli's attack. When he got up, he did not hesitate anymore. He turned around and was ready to run away. This is bad. Luli was secretly worried. Even though his physical strength had been increased by 3 times, his speed was not. If Uncle Scar got away and Luli passed out due to his weakness, the consequences would be unimaginable. Squeak, squeak, right at that moment a small beast crawled out from the trench in front of him on the left. Little White was in the backpack. It was precious when Luli threw it out. Little White was thrown out as well. Luli thought of Little White's horrifying speed. He stared at Uncle Scar's bleeding thigh and shouted in a deep voice, "Little White, go and bite his thigh." As long as Little White could by some time, Luli could catch up with Uncle Scar and kill him. Little White heard Luli's order and without any hesitation, it rushed towards Uncle Scar in a white blur. However, what happened next made Luli tremble violently. He stood still on the spot and his eyes were filled with terror. Little White caught up with Uncle Scar easily in a white blur. Then it opened its mouth and started to bite Uncle Scar's thigh. In just a blink of an eye, the flesh on Uncle Scar's right leg was gone. Only the bones were left. Ah! Uncle Scar let out a heart-wrenching scream. He tried to grab Little White with one hand. However, Little White dodged and went to the other leg of Uncle Scar. In just a blink of an eye, that leg had turned into bones again. What? Luli was stunned. Such a powerful warrior of the Spirit Sea realm was badly injured by Little White in an instant? 2 legs turned into bones in just a blink of an eye. This was appalling. However, on second thought, Luli thought that Little White could even bite the Heaven Kylan sword. What else could it not bite off? It was not surprising that it could bite off Uncle Scar's leg. Swish! Luli soon came to his senses. He rushed over, jumped up high and swung his Heaven Kylan sword. He cut off the head of Uncle Scar, who was seriously injured. Chapter 55. Phew, phew! After Uncle Scar was killed, Luli gasped for air. He stared at Uncle Scar's head that rolled on the ground with his eyes wide open. He still couldn't believe it. He had killed a warrior of the Spirit Sea realm? Warriors of the Spirit Sea realm used to be like invincible gods to him. More than a month ago, he was nothing. Even when Di Hu and the others bullied him, he had to swallow his anger. Now, he could kill a powerful warrior of the same realm as Di Ba. It was like a dream, however. It was all thanks to Little White that Luli could kill Uncle Scar so smoothly. Without Little White, Uncle Scar would have run away. Uncle Scar was too fast for Luli to catch up. This bloodline skill is so powerful. Luli was excited. Even though he could not kill Uncle Scar without Little White, he did defeat Uncle Scar and hurt him. It was all thanks to the bloodline skill. Oh, the time limit of the bloodline skill is almost up. On this thought, Luli suddenly came back to his senses. He quickly searched Uncle Scar's body and found some golden leaves and a yellowed secret book. Luli had no time to check. He picked up Uncle Scar's long sword and his own bag and ran away with Little White. Soon, he would enter a period of weakness and fall asleep. Zhao Rui might be right behind him and could catch up with him at any time. Luli must find a safe place as soon as possible. After running for more than 3 miles, Luli was getting more and more anxious. There were only barren hills nearby. There was no place to hide, and he felt it was almost time. After running for another couple of miles, Luli's muscles started to contract. His chi and energy were getting weaker. He felt a deep sense of tiredness. That's it. Let's see if God will bless me. Luli had his eyes on a fairly secluded cave. He had no choice but to run towards it. The cave was small and not deep. Luli found a stone nearby and blocked the cave entrance randomly. He said to Little White, "Little White, guard the cave entrance for me." You can eat anything you want except for the Heaven Kylan sword. With that said, Luli fell asleep with the quilt wrapped around him. At this moment, not even thunder could wake him up. Luli thought too much. Zhao Rui and the others didn't catch up with him. They just camped at the place where they separated from Uncle Scar. Uncle Scar told them not to go anywhere. How could Zhao Rui run around in the wilderness at night? Luli slept the entire night peacefully and only woke up when it was almost dawn. He stretched himself comfortably. He was stunned for a moment before he rolled around and got up. After confirming that no one had touched the stone outside and that the sky was about to brighten, he felt relieved. F***ck. Luli suddenly found a sword hilt next to him, but the blade was not off. It was Uncle Scar's high-rank Xian artifact. Beside him, Little White was curled up into a ball and sleeping soundly. Prodigal, prodigal. Luli felt his heart aching. Uncle Scar was a warrior at the Spirit Sea Realm, and he was in charge of protecting Zhao Rui. How could the Xian artifact he used be of low rank? It was at least above the 7th or 8th grade of the human rank. It might even be an Earth rank magical artifact, but it was eaten by Little White. But thinking about it, he seemed to have said last night that as long as he didn't gnaw on the Heavenly Kylan sword, everything else was up to him? He curled his lips in embarrassment. If it wasn't for Little White, he wouldn't have been able to kill Uncle Scar. This Xian artifact was Little White's spoils of war. Thinking about it, he didn't care about him anymore. Let's go. This place was too close to the battlefield. Zhao Rui and the others didn't chase after him last night, so they would definitely come looking for Uncle Scar in the morning. Luli didn't worry about Zhao Rui and the others even though Uncle Scar was dead. The thing was, there were many people of the Zhao family at the frigid Cloud Mountain. Luli didn't want to leave any traces behind, which would cause the powerful warriors of the Zhao family to hunt him down. Luli threw Little White back into the jute bag and let it sleep again. He left the cave and headed towards the north. He wanted to go to the Red Stone Mountain, steal the eggs of the red phosphorus hawks, and then figure out a way to get back to the county. Luli was much more confident after he killed a warrior at the Spirit Sea Realm. He was in a good mood as he ran. He had the bloodline skill. More importantly, Little White's abnormal ability gave him the confidence to fight against warriors at the Spirit Sea Realm. While running, Luli was lost in thoughts. He recalled the fight with Uncle Scar last night and rehearsed in his mind, trying to figure out how to make full use of his advantages and enhance his combat effectiveness. He also took Little White into consideration. He was thinking about how he could use Little White's abnormal ability to cooperate with him in the fight. Luli was 100% sure that this little beast was a Xian beast above the 3rd rank, maybe even higher. It was just born, and it already had such miraculous abilities, such horrifying speed, and such sharp teeth. How powerful would it be when it grew up? Luli touched the animal tooth pendant on his neck on the thought of Little White. Little White followed him because of the animal tooth pendant. Little White's eyes were clearly filled with fear when it looked at the animal tooth pendant. It meant that the owner of the animal tooth pendant must be of a higher rank than Little White, which meant that it must be a Xian beast above the 5th or 6th rank. Only my father knows about the origin of the animal tooth pendant, but he is still trapped in the ice abyss. Luli looked towards the north. From here, he would arrive at the ice abyss if he ran straight for thousands of miles. If there were no Xian beasts blocking his way, it would only take him a couple of days at most to get to the ice abyss. He was so close to his father and mother, but he felt they were so far away. He did not have the ability to get his parents out of the ice abyss. He didn't even have the courage to get close to the ice abyss. Father, mother? Luli's eyes reddened when he thought about how his father was trapped for 15 years and how his mother's life and death were still unknown. He felt as if his heart was being twisted by a knife. He looked towards the north in a daze, clenched his fists and said, "Father, mother, wait for me. I will teleport to the Central Plains as soon as possible to find the powerful warriors of the Lu family and ask them to rescue you. Let's go. After he calmed himself down, Lu Li strode forward. He still had a long way to go in order to rescue his father and mother. It was pointless to think too much now. He needed to move forward step by step with his feet firmly on the ground. His primary goal was to get to the Red Stone Mountain and complete the task assigned by the Lu family. With a detailed map in his hand, Lu Li moved quickly. He didn't go towards the frigid cloud valley. Last time, he was almost tricked there. What if the Zhao family was guarding at the other end of the valley? Lu Li chose to go around the frigid cloud valley and jump over the mountain on the left. Even though the road was harder and it would take more time, it would be safe. **T The road was hard indeed. There was no road at all. There were thousands of ravines, rocks and peaks in great numbers, and thistles and thorns. If it were an average person, it would be hard for them to move even an inch. What was more, there were poisonous insects lurking in the mountains, and miasma was everywhere. The only good thing was that there was no road here, so the beast upheaval would not spread to this side. Lu Li didn't run into a single Xian beast after struggling for more than 3 miles. Swish! Just as Lu Li jumped onto a huge rock peak, there came a sharp piercing sound from the distance. Then, a golden spot of light zoomed in. Lu Li glanced over and was so scared that he quickly jumped off the rock peak and hid. There was a golden chariot in front of him. That was a powerful warrior of a super family. Any one of them could wipe out the entire Wuling County. Lu Li dared not to provoke them. The golden chariot was so fast that it arrived in front of Lu Li in the blink of an eye. Lu Li didn't dare to look at it, so he hid under the rock peak. However, right at that moment the golden chariot suddenly slowed down. Eventually, it stopped above Lu Li's head. Streaks of violent qi and energy enveloped him. Who is down there? Sneaking around. Get out! A shocking roar of anger came out, which made Lu Li tremble. His expressions changed. He was discovered? That being said, the warriors up there were at least at the Soul Pond realm. It was not surprising that they could see him. Oh no, I hope nothing bad happens to me. Chapter 56. Lu Li paused for a bit and jumped up from the stone peak. He looked up at the golden chariot above his head and carefully sized it up. Last time, the golden chariot was too fast and too high. Lu Li could only see some golden figures. This time, he could see them clearly. After a few glances, his eyes became slightly intoxicated. There was a beautiful girl on the golden chariot. She was surrounded by 4 powerful warriors in golden armors, like stars surrounding the moon. The girl was about 16 years of age. She was wearing an emerald green soft armor and had a jade flute in her hand. Her hair was like a waterfall, her face was like the moon, her figure was graceful, and her temperament was elegant. Lu Li watched from below. He felt the girl was like a fairy descending to the mortal world surrounded by a group of gods. Lu Li had seen pretty girls before. Lu Ling's face was so beautiful that it could cause the downfall of cities and states. Therefore, he was immune to pretty girls. Lady Yi was a pretty girl, but Lu Li was not that impressed. However, the pretty girl on the chariot made him fall head over heels. The girl's looks were not inferior to Lu Ling's, and her temperament was more elegant and unique. Bloodline mark, purple, 7th rank bloodline. Lu Li's eyes were attracted by a purple mark on the girl's neck. It was a purple flower, very pretty. Purple bloodline mark was a 7th rank bloodline. As long as the girl did not die prematurely, she would definitely become a powerful warrior at the peak of the northern desert in the future. What surprised Lu Li was that there was no bloodline mark on the necks of the 4 powerful warriors in golden armors. Lu Li didn't know if they used some special method to hide the bloodline mark or they were not bloodline warriors. One of the powerful warriors in golden armor snorted. Luli felt like he was struck by lightning. He dared not to look any more. He cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, my lords. I am Luli, the guest warrior of the Lu family of the Wu Ling County. This is my ID token." "You are from the Lu family?" The powerful warrior in golden armor glanced at him coldly and asked with a frown, "The warriors of the Lu family are stationed at the Stability Mountain at the east. How come you are here?" Luli dared not to lie. He honestly said, "I am going to the Red Stone Mountain to complete a mission. I was not sent by the family to be stationed at the Frigid Cloud Mountain." "Red Stone Mountain?" The fairy-like girl suddenly opened her mouth. Her voice was like the chirping of an oriole, very pleasant to listen to. She asked with some puzzlement, "Why don't you take the Frigid Cloud Canyon to the Red Rock Mountain? On the contrary, you're giving up what's close at hand to seek what's far away, giving up what's easy to seek what's difficult." Luli forced a smile, cupped his fists and said, "Lady Qi, the families in the Wu Ling County do not get along well. I'm alone, so it's very easy for me to be assassinated by an enemy family, so—" "Oh!" The girl nodded. She didn't seem to be in the mood to listen to the story of the Wu Ling County. She waved her hand, and the golden chariot lit up and flew into the distance. After flying for some distance, the girl thought for a moment and warned, "There are many powerful profound beasts nearby. You better be careful." Hiss, the golden chariot flew into the distance in a blur. Luli breathed in relief. He had a good impression of that pretty girl. Although this person was arrogant and looked down on small warriors like them, at least this beautiful girl's heart was not bad. Before leaving, she even gave him a word of warning. "What realm is this girl at? Which family is she from?" The young girl did not leak her aura, but the experts around her had thick blood and qi, so they should all be top-notch experts. Since the young girl could come out with them, her realm must not be low, right? "Let's go." Luli shook his head and forced himself not to think too much about it. This kind of girl was from a different world from him. There would be no chance for them to cross paths in the future. Luli moved on, but he slowed down a bit and hid himself even more. That young lady said that there were many powerful Xian beasts nearby. It would be troublesome if he ran into them. The Red Stone Mountain was more than 100 miles away from the Frigid Cloud Valley. If the road was easy and he ran at full speed, it would only take him more than half a day. Clearly, based on Luli's current situation, he could not reach the Red Stone Mountain without a day or two. Roar! After half a day, there came a loud roar from the front left. Luli quickly sneaked into the ravine, listened for a while, and ran to the right after he was sure that it was safe. Boom, boom, boom. Soon, there came a series of explosions from the front left. Luli took a quiet look and vaguely saw a warrior in golden armor fighting with a Xian beast as tall as a mountain. So it seems that the young girl and several powerful warriors are here to clean up the powerful Xian beasts. Luli was a bit relieved. With these powerful warriors patrolling, even if there were powerful Xian beasts, they could not run amok. He should be fine as long as he was careful. He didn't dare to look and moved on. After several hours, there came some loud beast roars from the northwest when it was dark. Find a place to spend the night. It was more dangerous at night. Luli didn't dare to move on. There were too many Xian beasts nearby. He had to find a safe place to spend the night. After wandering around for an hour, he finally found a narrow and deep cave. There was a fishy smell in it, but there was no Xian beast. It must have been a cave where a Xian beast used to live. Luli found some stones to block the entrance of the cave. He asked Little White to guard the entrance while he sat with his legs crossed to rest and cultivate. He continued to open up energy channels to accumulate Xian energy. He cultivated until midnight. Nothing unusual happened outside. Luli fell into a deep sleep. He woke up before dawn. He didn't go out but cultivated for 2 hours. Only when the sky was completely bright did he rush towards the Red Stone Mountain again. He had traveled for a whole day yesterday and covered more than 30 miles. The red stone mountain was not far away now. Everything went smoothly today. He didn't run into any human beings or Xian beasts. In the afternoon, he finally saw a huge red mountain in the distance. There really are many red phosphorus hawks. Luli could see the red phosphorus hawks hovering above the red stone mountain from time to time. His eyes were burning with desire. One egg of a red phosphorus hawk was worth 500 contribution points. If he could steal 4 or 5, it would be enough for him to trade for many abandoned Xian artifacts for Little White to eat. After he found the red stone mountain, he didn't go up immediately. Instead, he wandered around the foot of the mountain. What if there were powerful Xian beasts or powerful warriors hiding in the mountain? After observing for more than 2 hours, Luli had a better idea. He only saw stone rats and red phosphorus hawks on the mountain. Since there were 2 kinds of Xian beasts gathered here, there shouldn't be any other Xian beasts. There were many Xian beasts on the mountain, so it was impossible for warriors to hide. Otherwise, they would be discovered by the Xian beasts. It was almost dusk. Luli didn't dare to go into the mountain again. The Xian beasts wouldn't have too much influence at night, but the power of warriors would be greatly weakened. He had to find a place to spend the night and think about it the next day. Nothing happened during the night. Luli cultivated all night. He had almost finished the last energy channel. If everything went well, he could completely open it in 2 or 3 days and condense his spirit sea. Go up the mountain, Luli observed for a while more. A determined look appeared on his face. He sneaked up the red stone mountain quietly. The route he took was very covert. He had been sneaking through grasses and ravines. His steps were as light as a cat's so that he wouldn't be discovered by Xian beasts. His idea was too naive. He only moved forward for about 3 miles when a stone rat in a cave in the distance suddenly screamed. Then, countless stone rats swarmed out from the cave from all directions. Chirp, chirp, the red phosphorus hawks on the peak of the mountain were alarmed as well. A large flock of them flew up and whizzed towards Luli. There were at least 100 red phosphorus hawks as far as the eye could see. Hundreds of stone rats swarmed out as well. Little White, it's your turn now. If Luli were to rely on himself, he wouldn't be able to move even an inch. This was just the first batch of Xian beasts. Once the fight started, there would be many more. Luli would definitely be worn down to death with his current strength. Therefore, he had to call out Little White. Squeak, squeak. Little White hopped onto Luli's shoulder and looked at the swarming stone rats and red phosphorus hawks like a beast king with pride. Little White emitted an inexplicable chi and energy. The stone rats and red phosphorus hawks that were coming from all directions were terrified. They dared not to get any closer. Okay. Luli's eyes lit up. With Little White's help, everything would be easy. The eggs of the red phosphorus hawks would be at his fingertip. P.S. Let's do an experiment to see how many readers support the old demon. 100 book coins per person will do. Not 100 renminbi, but 100 book coins, 1 RMB. More than 300 people will give gift. The old demon will continue for 3 days and 4 chapters. Before 6 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, if you can reach 300 gifts, you will win. Fight or not. Chapter 57. With Little White's help, it was indeed a piece of cake. Luli climbed up the red stone mountain. All the red phosphorus hawks and stone rats he encountered dared not to move. They automatically made way for him. The red stone mountain was the nest of the stone rats. They were everywhere. There were at least thousands of them. Luli only encountered this one. Who knew how many stone rats were hiding in the red stone mountain? There were many red phosphorus hawks as well. The nest of the stone rats was inside the red stone mountain, and the peak was the nest of the red phosphorus hawks. More and more red phosphorus hawks flew down. They all retreated to the side after being shrouded by Little White's chi and energy. not daring to get closer. The red stone mountain was huge and steep. Of course, it was not a problem for Luli. He only spent an hour to reach the peak. Wow, crack, crack, Luli's eyes lit up when he got to the peak. The peak was full of nests of the red phosphorus hawks. In those huge nests, there were many eggs the size of a human head. One egg of a red phosphorus hawk costs 500 contribution points. There are hundreds of them here. If I can get all of them back, it will be hundreds of thousands of contribution points. Luli was very excited. Contribution points were precious. They could be used for Xian artifacts, blood refinement pellets, or high-rank Xian skills. These were not the eggs of the red phosphorus hawks, but blood refinement pellets and Xian artifacts. How to get them back? With Little White's help, the nearly 1,000 red phosphorus hawks on the peak didn't dare to move. All the eggs could be easily obtained. The problem was that Luli could not carry so many. The eggs were too big. Luli only brought several jute bags. Judging from the situation, he could only carry about 10 eggs. He couldn't carry any more. Let's do it first. Luli thought about it and ordered Little White, let all the red phosphorus hawks fly away from the peak. If he wanted to take the eggs of the red phosphorus hawks, he could not do it in front of a flock of red phosphorus hawks. What if the red phosphorus hawks went on a rampage? Squeak, squeak, Little White raised its head up high and let out a few loud cries. All the red phosphorus hawks flew up and flew in all directions, landing in the small mountain below. Not a single one was left. Little White, well done. Luli grinned. He took out the jute bag and started to put the eggs of the red phosphorus hawks into it. As he had expected, he could only carry 15. Because he was carrying so many eggs, it was inconvenient for him to move. Who knew if the shells of these eggs were hard or not? What if it broke because of a bump? If I complete the mission, I can get 7,500 contribution points. That should be enough for me to use for a long time. Luli let out a long sigh of relief. Even though he had gone through a lot of hardships and was almost killed several times, he had finally gotten the eggs of the red phosphorus hawks. Obtaining the egg did not mean that he was safe. He still had to think of a way to return. The way here was already so dangerous, and the way back would definitely be even more dangerous. It was impossible for Zhao Rui to let him return to the city smoothly. Luli stood on the peak of the mountain and looked around. He was ready to go down the mountain to find a way back to the Wuling County. Just as he descended a few dozen feet from the mountain, countless black shadows sped over from the southeast. These people were extremely fast. Just a moment ago they were just tiny dots, but in just a few breaths of time, they had crossed several miles and were rushing towards Red Rock Mountain. Who is it? Are they coming for me? Or did you happen to pass by? Luli hid behind the rock and stared at the dozens of people that were approaching. He felt uneasy. After the time it took for one incense stick to burn, he saw clearly the armors the people were wearing. His face turned gloomy. All of them were wearing cyan armors. They were from the Zhao family. His enemies had come to him. There are more than 30 of them, and 3 of them are at the Spirit Sea realm. The veins on Luli's hand that was holding the Heaven Kylan's sword were popping out. He felt a fatal threat. All his muscles were tightened. It was clear that the Zhao family people were coming for the Red Rock Mountain. They were here to seek revenge. One wrong move and this would be his burial place. Escape? How could 3 warriors of the Spirit Sea realm escape? How could his speed be faster than warriors of the Spirit Sea realm? Fight? How could he fight with so many people? If it were just one warrior of the Spirit Sea realm, it would not be a problem for him to release his bloodline skill and Little White. But now there were 3 warriors of the Spirit Sea realm, and there were dozens of warriors of the Xian Wu realm. Come on. You want my life? Then give me your life. When the group of people rushed over and surrounded the entire Red Rock Mountain, Luli threw caution to the wind. Since he could not run away, then there was nothing more to say. He had to fight to the end. He put some jute bags with eagle eggs on the ground and said to Little White on his shoulder, "Little White, you hide later. Attack whoever I tell you to. If I die in this fight, you run away by yourself. Don't get caught." Squeak, squeak. Little White was very intelligent. It squeaked twice. A touch of coldness appeared in its little eyes. It emitted a strange chi and energy, and its short mane stood up. Little White was like an angry lion. Unfortunately, it was too small. For Luli, it was not scary at all. Instead, it was funny. "Luli!" A shout came from down below. Luli looked up and saw a young man of the spirit sea realm standing on a boulder at the foot of the mountain. The young man shouted, "I know you are on the mountain. Get down." The young man was wearing cyan armor and had a black bow in his hand. A black sword was strapped diagonally on his back. He looked majestic and imposing. He was surrounded by an old man of the spirit sea realm and 8 warriors of the Xian Wu realm, like stars surrounding the moon. Luli figured out his identity after some thought. Luli looked around. Seeing that all the warriors around the foot of the mountain had not attacked yet, Luli jumped onto the boulder. He stared at the young man and said, "You are Zhao Rui, the young master of the Zhao family?" The young man nodded with pride and said, "Yes, I am. You are good at running, aren't you? Uncle Scar could not kill you? Let's see where you can run to this time." Zhao Rui did not know that Uncle Scar had been killed by Luli. That night, Uncle Scar did not come back. Zhao Rui dared not to chase after him. He had to go to the base camp of the Zhao family in the frigid Cloud Mountain. From the base camp of the Zhao family, Zhao Rui mobilized several scouts to look for Uncle Scar and Luli. Uncle Scar's body should have been eaten by the Xian beasts, so the scouts did not find him. Instead, they found Luli's whereabouts. Upon learning the news, Zhao Rui immediately came with his men to hunt Luli down. Luli didn't reply. He looked around and tried to find a way out of this situation. Lu Ling told him not to give up even at the last moment. He had always kept it in mind. Patriarch Qi, why didn't the red phosphorus hawks and stone rats attack him? Zhao Rui looked to the old man of the spirit sea realm next to him and asked. This was the reason why he didn't give the order to attack as soon as he arrived at the foot of the mountain. I don't know. The old man next to him looked at Zhao Rui with a frown. He thought about it and said, Young Master Rui, how about we ask Patriarch Piao to bring some men with him to check out the situation while we coordinate from down there? Okay. Zhao Rui nodded. His eyes became cold. He ordered another powerful warrior of the spirit sea realm to the west. Patriarch Piao, bring some men with you. Kill them directly. Don't leave anyone alive. Kill. A white-haired old man shouted from the west. He rushed forward like a roaring beast. Numerous warriors of the Xian Wu realm gathered at the foot of the mountain swarmed towards the mountain. Here they are. Luli looked to the west and saw an old man going up the mountain quickly. All the stone rats that were in his way were smashed away easily. Only one warrior of the spirit sea realm? Luli glanced over to Zhao Rui. He blushed. If all 3 warriors of the spirit sea realm were here, he would die for sure. Now that they had to split up, he saw a glimmer of hope for survival. He was not afraid of warriors at the peak of the Xian Wu realm. The dozens of them could not kill him. As long as he could kill the 3 warriors of the spirit sea realm one by one, there was a high chance that he could survive. Little White. He turned around and looked at Little White behind him. He shouted in a deep voice, Control the red phosphorus hawks and stone rats to attack all the people going up the mountain, especially that white-haired old man. Let the red phosphorus hawks and stone rats surround him. P.S. In such a short time, the total number of people who gave gifts to Qidien Genesis had exceeded 100. It seemed that they were going to lose. Come on, if you are willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock, there will be more than 300 people. Starting from tomorrow, We will have 4 updates for 3 days in a row. We will not go back on our words. Chapter 58. Chirp, 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 chirp. The sky was filled with red phosphorus hawks and countless stone rat. Originally, only a small number of Xian beasts were attacking Elder Piao and the Xian Wu realm martial artists, but now they were attacking on a large scale. In the entire Red Rock Mountain, there were at least tens of thousands of stone rats and nearly 1,000 red phosphorus hawks. Although Little White could not control all of them, even if it could control half of them, it would still be very scary. Elder Piao and the group of Xian Wu realm martial artists were dumbfounded. Originally, the red phosphorus hawks and the stone rats did not pose any threat to them, but now they suddenly felt the pressure increase. Organized and unorganized were 2 completely different concepts. Especially after the red phosphorus hawks and the stone rats were controlled by Xiao Bai, they were all fearless and charged towards the warriors who were climbing up the mountain. Elder Piao was surrounded by at least 500 or 600 stone rats and 30 red phosphorus hawks. It had to be said that Elder Piao's combat power was intrepid. He held a long spear in his hand, and with a casual sweep, a few stone rats or 1 or 2 red phosphorus hawks would be smashed into the air. Furthermore, the mystical beasts that were smashed into the air were badly mutilated, and they couldn't be more dead. But, at this moment, Elder Piao was going up the mountain. The red stone mountain was very steep, and there was an endless stream of red phosphorus hawks and Xian beasts pouncing on it. How could he advance? How to rush up the mountain? The rest of the warriors in the Xian Wu realm were even more miserable. They were all blocked halfway up the mountain and had no way to break out of the encirclement. They could only desperately kill the stone rats and the red phosphorus hawks. What happened? At the foot of the mountain, Zhao Rui, Patriarch Qi and the others were all surprised. It was already strange that the stone rats and red phosphorus hawks did not attack Luli. Now, they were all madly attacking their people? Could it be that Luli could control the Xian beasts? Elder Qi, what should we do? Zhao Rui turned to Patriarch Qi. The latter thought about it and said, "Don't worry. Luli can't run away on the mountain. There are many Xian beasts, but they are of the lowest rank. It will only be a matter of time before they are all killed." This matter was too strange. Elder Qi did not dare to act rashly. Anyway, these low-level Xian beasts could not kill their people. If they were injured, they could just retreat. Xiao. They didn't move, but Luli did. Luli turned around and ran toward the north. It seemed that he was ready to break out of the encirclement. Zhao Rui and Elder Qi raised their eyebrows. Without any hesitation, they led 7 to 8 people and rushed towards the north of the Red Stone Mountain. When Zhao Rui and Patriarch Qi brought their warriors to the north, they didn't see Luli coming down. They looked over and shouted at the same time, luring the tiger away from the mountain. "We have fallen for it." The peak of the mountain was wide. Luli could not be seen from the foot of the mountain. Since Luli did not go down from the north, he must be luring the tiger away from the mountain. Bang! As expected, a dull explosion soon came from Elder Piao's direction in the west. It was obviously the sound of weapons colliding. Zhao Rui waved his hand and ran towards the west. Elder Qi and the others quickly followed. On the hillside to the west, Luli had already started fighting. He didn't care about those warriors at the Xian Wu realm. After he lured Patriarch Qi and Zhao Rui to the north, he went to the west and rushed towards Patriarch Piao like a ferocious tiger. Patriarch Piao was surrounded by a group of stone rats and red phosphorus hawks. He noticed Luli at once, but he pretended not to see anything. He continued to fight with the Xian beasts, waiting for Luli to come to him. For him, Luli at the Xian Wu realm was no different from the stone rats and the red phosphorus hawk. He could kill Luli easily. Luli wanted to trick him and sneak attack him, but that was exactly what Patriarch Piao wanted. Luli rushed towards him like a ferocious tiger. None of the stone rats and red phosphorus hawks nearby dared to attack him. When Luli got close to Patriarch Piao, Little White in the jute bag behind him made a strange cry. At the same time, Luli shouted, "Go to hell!" Luli's shout covered up Little White's cry. The two red phosphorus hawks above Patriarch Piao's head flew away in fear, making way for Luli. Hiss! The Heaven Kylan sword cut down from above with a sharp sound. Patriarch Piao saw a cold glint from the corner of his eyes, but he still paid no attention to it. He swept his long spear across and knocked away several stone rats and two red phosphorus hawks nearby. Only then did he look at Luli. Luli jumped down from the sky. His speed was like a rainbow, and the strength carried by the Heaven Kylan's sword had reached the extreme. However, in the eyes of Patriarch Piao, all of this was so ridiculous. His realm was not high, only at the initial stage of the Spirit Sea realm. However, Luli knew nothing about Xian's skill. Patriarch Piao could easily dodge Luli's attack and then kill Luli in an instant. That was what Patriarch Piao did. He shook his long spear and swept towards the Heaven Kylan's sword while he slid to the right. He was going to attack the surface from one point to the other. Once the surface of the Heaven Kylan's sword was hit, Luli would have a hard time controlling the Heaven Kylan's sword. Once Luli's offense was exhausted, what awaited Luli would be Patriarch Piao's storm-like attacks. Luli was well aware of this situation. He knew that his fighting experience, Xian's skill and fighting consciousness could not compare with those old guys who had been fighting on the edge of swords for decades. Therefore, Luli raised his other hand. When Patriarch Piao was about to move, a black crossbow arrow was shot to the right. Luli's purpose was clear, which was to force Patriarch Piao to fight him head-on. Luli had the upper hand from above. He had the strength of more than 14,000 pounds. He was confident that his strength could only be stronger than Patriarch Piao's. Crossbow arrow? Patriarch Piao had just moved when he saw a streak of black light coming towards him. If he continued to move to the right, he would be hit based on the speed of the crossbow arrow. Even though he was wearing armor, what if he could not block it? In a split second, Patriarch Piao made up his mind. He stepped back, held his long spear horizontally, held it with both hands and pushed upwards. Luli was only at the Xian Wu realm. If he had reached the Spirit Sea realm, he would have been famous in the Wu Ling County. There was no way that Patriarch Piao did not know about him. Warriors at the peak of the Xian Wu realm only had 11,000 pounds of strength. What was there to be afraid of? Clank! The Heaven Kylan's sword landed on the long spear. A muffled sound of metal colliding came out. Sparks flew everywhere. A surge of horrifying strength came. Patriarch Piao's body sank. The stones under his feet cracked. He lost his balance and rolled down. "Little White!" Luli shouted in a low voice. He stomped on the ground and jumped up again. He rushed towards Patriarch Piao, who was rolling down, and continued to hack at his head with his Heaven Kylan sword. Swish! A small beast shot out from the jute bag on Luli's back. It rushed into the crack of the stones and followed Luli downwards. Patriarch Piao had just stabilized himself after rolling down when he saw Luli roaring towards him like a huge beast. The cold glare on the Heaven Kylan's sword was glaring. The web between Patriarch Piao's thumb and forefinger was a bit numb. Qi and blood tumbled in his body. His eyes were filled with surprise. The strength of Luli's move was beyond his imagination. If it were not for the fact that Patriarch Piao had used his strength to press against the stones on the ground and rolled down, his head would have been smashed by Luli. How could a warrior of the Xian Wu realm have such powerful strength? Patriarch Piao could not figure it out for now, and he had no time to think about it. This was because Luli's sword had already arrived. He also raised his other hand, revealing a black crossbow. Patriarch Piao did not want to be overwhelmed by Luli. He moved his body to the left and right to avoid being hit by the crossbow arrow. The long spear twisted and stabbed towards Luli like a poisonous snake. The longer the spear was, the more powerful it was. Patriarch Piao wanted to find a chance to kill Luli with one move. Ha ha ha, old dog, you have been fooled. Little White now. Chapter 59. Luli had two ways to defeat a warrior of the Spirit Sea realm. The first was to release his bloodline skill, and the second was to sneak up on him with Little White. Whitey's teeth were too sharp and its speed was too fast. However, if it was a frontal attack, it was very likely to be killed. After all, Spirit Sea realm warriors' attack power was very horrible. Little White was only the size of a fist, and its defense power was certainly not strong. As such, they could only rely on sneak attacks. Everything Luli had done just now was to create the conditions for Little White. He had attracted Elder Piao's attention, which gave Little White a chance to launch a sneak attack. He did a great job. Elder Piao was so focused on killing him that he did not notice Little White in the crevice. There were too many stone rats nearby, so why would Elder Piao care about a little rat? Caw caw caw. Little White grabbed Elder Piao's ankle with its two little claws and started gnawing on it. Unsurprisingly, in the blink of an eye, Elder Piao's ankle was reduced to bones. Ah! A heart-wrenching scream rang out. Elder Piao looked down and saw that half of his right calf was only left with the bone. The skin and flesh on the outside had all disappeared. What's more, that little beast was still crazily eating his flesh. What is a person's instinctive reaction to being bitten by a wild beast? Naturally, the first thing he wanted to do was shake off the wild beast. Elder Piao lifted his leg and swung it, but his entire calf was only left with bone. This swing almost caused him to faint from the pain, and naturally, he could no longer maintain his balance. Boom! He fell to the ground and rolled over. Luli had already rushed over. Luli shouted, "Little White, run!" Little White disappeared into the crack in a blur. Luli swung his Heaven Kylan sword and hacked at Patriarch Piao's head. Sensing the fatal threat, Patriarch Piao clenched his teeth and swung his spear at Luli's head despite the pain, as if he was trying to perish together with Luli. "Little White!" Luli shouted again. Little White rushed out from the crack and bit Patriarch Piao's arm. Patriarch Piao was in so much pain that he could no longer hold his spear. Luli hacked at Patriarch Piao's head with his Heaven Kylan sword. Perfect! Luli looked at Patriarch Piao, who could not be more dead. His eyes were filled with joy. He looked at Little White gratefully and gave it a thumbs up. Elder Pooh! Luli was soon distracted by a sorrowful cry. It was only the time for a few breaths since Luli rushed down the mountain and killed Patriarch Piao. There were several warriors of the Xian Wu realm near Patriarch Piao, but they were all surrounded by Xian beasts. They could only watch as Patriarch Piao was killed by Luli. Many people didn't even see Little White. All they saw was that Luli killed Patriarch Piao in 2 moves. Someone cried out, startling everyone in the vicinity. Many of the cultivators who were fighting the profound beasts glanced over. When they saw that Elder Piao had been killed, they were frightened. Patriarch Piao was not so powerful in the Zhao family, but he was still a powerful warrior of the Spirit Sea realm. If Luli could kill him in 2 moves, then wouldn't it be as easy as cutting watermelons? Xiao! Luli made a move. He rushed towards a warrior of the Zhao family nearby, because he saw Little White. Little White was Luli's secret weapon. Anyone he saw must be killed. Seeing Luli rushing towards him with a murderous look, the man's face turned pale. He became even more timid when he saw the stone rats and the red phosphorus hawks automatically making way for Luli. Xiao! Several people rushed over from the north. Zhao Rui and the others had come back. The warrior lost all hope on seeing them. Now that Zhao Rui was here, he didn't even have the chance to run away. The Zhao family had strict rules. Cowardice in a fight would result in death. The only thing the warrior could do was to fight to the death, trying to buy himself some time. His idea was so naive. Lu Li rushed over without any fancy moves. He just hacked at the warrior with his Heaven Kylan sword. The speed of the sword was too fast. The warrior had just smashed away a stone rat. He had to lift his sword to block. Bang! Lu Li's full-force hack had a strength of more than 18,000 pounds. Warriors of the Xian Wu realm could not stand it. This martial artist was sent flying with a single slash. He crashed into a group of stone rats and was then bitten to death by them. Nice! Lu Li looked at Zhao Rui and the others in the distance. He paid no attention to them. He kicked on the ground with one leg and leaped towards another warrior nearby. Where is Patriarch Piao? Zhao Rui and Patriarch Qi rushed over, but they didn't see Patriarch Piao. Both of them had a bad feeling about this. Patriarch Qi looked at a warrior of the Zhao family. The latter understood and shouted in grief and indignation, "Young Master Rui, Patriarch Qi! Patriarch Piao was killed by Lu Li. Over there." Patriarch Qi and Zhao Rui looked over there. They could vaguely see a body being gnawed on by stone rats in the pile of rocks. Patriarch Qi was shocked as well. Zhao Rui's face was full of doubt. They had only been gone for such a short time, but Lu Li could kill Patriarch Piao. Could it be that Lu Li was hiding his fighting capacity? Lu Li was a warrior of the Spirit Sea realm? Ah! While the two were in deep thoughts, another warrior of the Xian Wu realm was killed. The two saw it clearly this time. Lu Li didn't use any fancy moves. He just hacked that warrior to death with one move. Patriarch Qi, we cannot let him go on like this. Let's go up together. Seeing that Lu Li was rushing towards another warrior, Zhao Rui's eyes were filled with killing intent. He had some information about Lu Li. Lu Li was just a native boy born in a tribe. He had just joined the Lu family not long ago and was only a guest warrior. How could he reach the Spirit Sea realm? Since Lu Li was not at the Spirit Sea realm, then Patriarch Piao must have been killed by Lu Li's trick. Both Patriarch Qi and Zhao Rui were at the Spirit Sea realm. If they could order the other warriors to surround and kill Lu Li, the chances of killing Lu Li would be very high. But Patriarch Qi was still hesitating. It was not that he was afraid of Lu Li. It was just that Zhao Rui was the young family patriarch of the Zhao family. Patriarch Qi dared not to put Zhao Rui in danger. On the off chance that Zhao Rui was killed, Patriarch Qi's entire family might be killed by Zhao Gui, the family patriarch of the Zhao family, in rage. Bang! Lu Li killed another warrior of the Zhao family with one move. Zhao Rui was completely enraged. He rushed towards the mountain with the black longbow in his hand and the silver sword on his back. Kill! Patriarch Qi had no other choice but to shout. Then he shouted to the warriors of the Zhao family on the hillside, "Gather together and surround Lu Li. Whoever can kill Lu Li will be rewarded with 10,000 contribution points. With great rewards there would be brave warriors." 10,000 contribution points were enough to trade for many Xian artifacts, Xian skills and elixirs. The eyes of the warriors on the hillside were all bloodshot. They all tried their best to kill their way out. 2 or 3 warriors gathered together and rushed towards Lu Li. Swish! Zhao Rui stood at the foot of the mountain. He raised his black longbow and shot an arrow at Lu Li. His bow was clearly a Xian artifact of a high rank. Along with a sharp sound, a black arrow whizzed over, aiming directly at Lu Li's head. Such a fast arrow! Lu Li was about to kill a warrior of the Zhao family nearby. He had to stop when he heard the sound. He raised his Heaven Kylan sword and smashed the arrow away. "Young Master Rui!" Patriarch Qi caught up with him. He looked up and said, "I will bring some people up there. You stay here and find a chance to shoot arrows. As long as you can distract Lu Li, I will definitely be able to kill him." "Okay." Zhao Rui nodded in agreement. He brought the other two to the boulder on the left. He asked the other two to attack the nearby stone rats to protect themselves while he shot at Lu Li again and again. Clank, clank, clank. Luli smashed away the arrows with his Heaven Kylan sword again and again. Seeing Patriarch Chi rushing up with 4 or 5 warriors and more than a dozen people approaching him, Luli could not suppress his anger. Chapter 60. Bang Bang Bang. Patriarch Chi was also at the early stage of the Spirit Sea Realm, and he was very powerful. He shook his long sword, smashing away the stone rats and red phosphorus hawks one by one. Together with 5 or 6 people, he rushed forward like a sharp sword. For the sake of 10,000 contribution points, more than a dozen people on both sides were risking their lives. They were not afraid of death, and completely ignored the attacks of the stone rats and the red phosphorus hawk. Many people were scratched, but they didn't care and rushed over. Whoosh, 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 one after another, black arrows pierced through the air. Luli dodged to the left and right. Zhao Rui's arrows were too fast and accurate. If Luli didn't dodge or block, he would be shot. Little White, let the red phosphorus hawks attack the person who shot the arrow. Luli thought about it and whispered to Little White in the jute bag behind him. Then, he covered Little White's cry with a shrill whistle. Little White cried twice, and immediately, more than 10 red phosphorus hawks rushed towards Zhao Rui. The red phosphorus hawk couldn't kill Zhao Rui, but the red phosphorus hawk's body was huge, so it could block Zhao Rui's arrows. Elder Qi and the others were already 100 meters away from him. He had to deal with Elder Qi with all his might. Once he was distracted, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. After more than a dozen red phosphorus hawks were gone, Zhao Rui's arrows stopped. Luli stood on a boulder, looking at Patriarch Qi and the others that were swarming towards him. Luli looked solemn. This Master Qi was at the Spirit Sea Realm, so he should be faster than the 5 Xian Wu Realm warriors behind him. However, he slowed down on purpose and kept a distance of 2 meters from the people behind him. This meant that Elder Qi was more stable and conservative. Judging from his expression, he was also a cautious person. This kind of person was the most difficult to deal with. His strategy should be to let everyone surround and kill him. He would bring a group of people with absolute strength and numbers to suppress the encirclement. As expected, after running for another 10 meters, Elder Qi slowed down again. It was obvious that he was waiting for the people from all directions to gather before launching a fierce attack. There were 16 people rushing over. Including Patriarch Qi, there were 22 of them. Once Luli was surrounded, he would be cut into pieces for sure if he was not a god. What should we do? Luli didn't move. His eyes flickered as he looked around, trying to find a way out. Finally, he looked at Zhao Rui, who was at the foot of the mountain. Whether we live or die, it all depends on this. Luli took a deep breath, closed his eyes and stood still on the spot. More than a dozen people rushed over while killing Xian beasts. Below them, a Spirit Sea Realm warrior was approaching quickly. How could he close his eyes? Patriarch Qi and the others were stunned, but they didn't mind. Luli was just a trapped beast. No matter how hard he struggled, he could not escape death. 50 meters, 30 meters, 10 meters. Kill, Patriarch Qi shouted. He and the 5 men behind him sped up towards the boulder where Luli was. The more than a dozen men were less than 60 feet away from Luli. At this moment, all of them sped up, ready to surround Luli. Buzz! At that moment, Luli opened his eyes. He took 2 steps back and then leaped up. The boulder under his feet cracked and he leaped up. Then, under the astonished gazes of Elder Qi and the others, he directly passed by them and rushed down the mountain. He can actually jump that far? Patriarch Qi suddenly turned around and saw Luli landing 3 feet behind him. Patriarch Qi's expression changed. Luli just used his Xian energy. Patriarch Qi sensed that Luli had not reached the Spirit Sea Realm. However, the distance Luli could jump was almost as far as Patriarch Qi. There was only one explanation: Luli's physical strength was very powerful. Swish! Luli had rushed down like a gust of wind. Patriarch Chi didn't have much time to think. He immediately turned around and chased after Luli. Oh no! He glanced over and his heart skipped a beat. Luli was running towards Zhao Rui. Luli broke out of the encirclement not to run away, but to kill Zhao Rui. Young Master Rui, retreat now! Patriarch Chi shouted and sped up to the limit. Zhao Rui was the young family patriarch of the Zhao family. Nothing could happen to him. Otherwise, Patriarch Chi couldn't answer to the Zhao family patriarch. Zhao Rui and the others were still fighting with a flock of red phosphorus hawks. Hearing Patriarch Chi's shout, Zhao Rui glanced over. Seeing Luli rushing towards him like crazy, Zhao Rui was enraged out of instinct. He was about to rush over with his silver long sword. Young Master Rui, retreat! Seeing this, Elder Chi was scared out of his wits. He increased his speed and roared furiously. Zhao Rui was slowed down by Patriarch Chi's roar. His eyes flickered. Eventually, he stepped back, feeling wrong. It's okay, Zhao Rui stepped back. Patriarch Chi found that he was a bit faster than Luli. Zhao Rui was not slow either. At this rate, Patriarch Chi could catch up with Luli easily. Patriarch Chi secretly felt relieved. When the others caught up, they could surround Luli and kill him. 30 feet, 30 feet, 30 feet. Luli, who was in front of Patriarch Chi, suddenly stopped running. He was only 30 feet away from Patriarch Chi. Patriarch Chi was running at full speed. How fast could he be? In the time for just one breath, Patriarch Chi had caught up to Luli. Old dog, you have been fooled. Luli suddenly turned around and put on a cold smile. He shouted, burning blood! Buzzing! A glow came from his back. His muscles swelled up and his eyes turned silver. He had endless strength in his body. He had used his bloodline skill. If he were to conserve his strength at this critical moment, he would be an idiot. His target had always been clear. He did not want to kill Zhao Rui. His target was Patriarch Chi, who was coming from behind him. This old man was powerful and experienced. He was Luli's biggest enemy. If he could not kill Patriarch Chi, even if he could kill Zhao Rui, he would still die. Swish! Luli swung his Heaven Kylan sword and cut at Patriarch Chi with his strength of more than 100,000 pounds. With the increase in strength, Luli's attack was as fast as a rainbow. Patriarch Chi was only 3 feet behind Luli. Due to inertia, Luli was still moving forward. Patriarch Chi did not expect that Luli would stop. By the time he realized what was going on, he was already behind Luli. A huge saber hacked at Luli with the force of wind and thunder. What could Patriarch Chi do? Due to inertia, Patriarch Chi could not stand still. It was even more impossible for him to dodge to the side. He had to force himself to stand still and cut back with his sword in both of his hands. Nice. Luli's eyes lit up. If Patriarch Chi just rolled away, Luli would have no other way. Patriarch Chi fighting him with brute force was what Luli wanted the most. It was because Luli had the strength of more than 100,000 pounds. After releasing his bloodline skill, Luli's strength could reach more than 100,000 pounds. Patriarch Chi only had the strength of more than 30,000 or 40,000 pounds. How could Luli defend himself? Bang! With a muffled sound of explosion, a huge force as if a wild beast had crashed into Patriarch Chi. Patriarch Chi's hands and body trembled. He could not hold on to his sword anymore and it flew away. With a flash of cold glare, the Heaven Kylan sword landed on Patriarch Chi's chest. Patriarch Chi was wearing cyan armor, which was clearly not a low-rank Xian artifact. The Heaven Kylan sword could not break it completely. Since the Heaven Kylan sword was damaged, it was no longer a real Xian artifact. Naturally, it could not break the Xian artifact armor. The thing was, Luli's move was too cruel with the strength of more than 100,000 pounds. It was just like a beast the size of a hill bumping into Patriarch Chi with all its strength. Even if Patriarch Chi's armor was not broken, the horrifying force would be enough to kill him. Bang! Patriarch Chi's body was smashed away like a cannonball. He smashed into a boulder more than 30 feet behind him. He spat out some blood in midair. His eyes were filled with pain and shock. He was bounced back by the boulder and rolled on the ground. He could not get up. Blood kept gushing out from his mouth, staining the ground red. The Xian beasts were still roaring and attacking in the wild, but everyone had stopped running. They looked at Patriarch Chi, who was dying, in a daze. Patriarch Chi was killed by Lu Li with one move? The same thought came to their minds, one that they could not believe. At this moment, they all felt it was so funny, ridiculous, and funny. PS from the old freak. Since everyone is doing their best, the old freak naturally has to do something. From today on, there will be 4 chapters for 3 days in a row. There will be another chapter at 9 p.m. Chapter 61. Patriarch Chi was also at the initial stage of the Spirit Sea realm, but his fighting capacity was recognized by the Zhao family. For more than a decade, he had risked his life for the Zhao family and made great contributions. He enjoyed high prestige in the Zhao family. As far as the warriors at the Xian Wu realm were concerned, Patriarch Chi was definitely a powerful warrior, even though his fighting capacity was not as good as the top 10 patriarchs of the Zhao family. The dozens of warriors at the scene even believed that they could not survive one move from Patriarch Chi. Now, he was killed by a young man with one move. The gap was so big that Zhao Rui and the others were dumbfounded. They could not come to their senses yet. It was not until a man nearby screamed in pain after his hand was bitten off by a stone rat that everyone came to their senses. However, no one knew what to do, including Zhao Rui. Fight? Were they going to court death? Patriarch Chi could be killed with one move, and there was no trace of it. He could be killed in a head-on fight. It was pointless for the others to rush over, except for seeking their own deaths. Run! 2 patriarchs of the Spirit Sea realm were killed, and several warriors were killed. So many people were wounded. Many people were not willing to retreat just like this. Zhao Rui did not give the order to retreat, so they dared not to. Swish! They did not move, but Lu Li did. He rushed towards Zhao Rui like a sharp sword. He stared at Zhao Rui coldly and shouted, "Zhao Rui, go to hell!" This roar woke everyone up again. They rushed towards Zhao Rui at once. Zhao Rui was scared as well. If he was chased by Lu Li, would he be killed with one move? Retreat! Zhao Rui shouted at once and ran towards the south with several warriors. The other warriors on the hillside all ran towards the south in panic by bypassing Lu Li. Hoi! Lu Li suddenly changed his direction and caught up with 2 warriors of the Zhao family. His long saber cut through the air and swept across. One of the warriors of the Zhao family was cut in half at the waist. The other one was scared out of his wits. He shook his long spear and stabbed at Lu Li randomly. Clank! Lu Li casually swept his saber with 100,000 pounds of strength. That warrior's long spear was smashed away, leaving the middle open. Lu Li cut down with his saber and killed another warrior. Zhao Rui had run away after killing 2 warriors in a row. Lu Li stopped and shouted to Zhao Rui, "Zhao Rui, bring more bodyguards next time, or I will kill you." Zhao Rui did not reply and quickly disappeared into the distance with a group of people. Lu Li stood where he was and did not chase after them. When everyone disappeared, he immediately ran towards the peak of the mountain. He grabbed the jute bag with the eagle eggs in it and rushed down. He found a cave and crawled into it. It was not that he did not want to kill Zhao Rui, but he could not. The bloodline divine skill could only last for 15 minutes. If Zhao Rui and the others did not retreat, he would be the one to die. Bang! There were stone rats in the cave, but Whitey's aura suppressed them. Just a few hundred feet into the cave, Luli blacked out and fell to the ground. The backlash of releasing the bloodline skill came. He was so weak that he couldn't even open his eyes. He shouted at Little White and asked it to protect him before passing out. After a long time, Luli woke up. He looked around and found himself still in the cave with Little White next to him. None of the stone rats dared to move. Luli was relieved. He sat up and rubbed his face fiercely. After sorting out his thoughts, he looked at Xiao Bai with lingering fear. It was too dangerous. 3 warriors of the Spirit Sea realm and dozens of warriors at the peak of the Xian Wu realm. He had survived and killed 2 warriors of the Spirit Sea realm. Luli found it hard to believe just thinking about it. Little White, thank you. Luli carried Little White in his arms. Little White stuck out its tongue and kissed Luli's palm. However, it had just eaten Patriarch Piao's flesh, so its mouth was full of the taste of blood. Let's go. This was not a place to stay for long. Luli tied the jute bags to his back and ran out with Little White. He walked out of the cave and checked around. After making sure that there was nobody around, he left in stride. Something is not right. Luli thought about it and ran towards the bodies of Patriarch Piao and Patriarch Qi. The 2 bodies were already eaten by the red phosphorus hawks and the stone rats, but their armors and weapons were still there. Good stuff. The armors were not easy for Luli to take off. They were all dyed red with blood. He picked up Patriarch Piao's long spear and Patriarch Qi's long sword and ran away. He didn't dare to go straight to the south. Instead, he went to the southwest. The road to the southwest was even more difficult. There were thousands of ravines, thistles and thorns everywhere, and poisonous insects were everywhere. Luli had to carry the jute bags on his back, which made it even more difficult to walk. His legs were scratched by the thistles and thorns. Fortunately, there were many poisonous insects here, but no powerful Xian beasts. They ran into more than a dozen Xian beasts of the first rank, but Luli didn't even have to do anything. Little White's qi and energy directly suppressed them. It was getting dark. Luli found a cave early in the morning to spend the night. The visibility at night was poor, and there would be more poisonous insects and beasts. He dared not to travel at night. It was getting dark, and Luli asked Little White to protect him. Luli went into meditation to cultivate after he ate some dried food and asked Little White to protect him. He had opened up almost half of his last energy channel. He wanted to open it up as soon as possible so that he could think of a way to condense Spirit Sea. He cultivated until midnight. He could not stand it anymore and fell asleep. The next day, he got up at dawn and continued on his way. Zhao Rui and the others had left, but there were many powerful warriors of the Zhao family near the frigid cloud mountain. If the Zhao family sent out a powerful warrior at the middle stage of the Spirit Sea realm, or even the latter stage, Luli would not be able to escape. The road was still difficult to walk on. Luli hurried on with all his might and finally arrived at the edge of the cliff by noon. When he came here, he climbed up from the cliff. There was only one way up the frigid cloud mountain. He did not know the situation over there, so naturally, he dared not to go down the mountain rashly. Ancient vines. Luli found some ancient vines and weaved them into a long rope. He tied one end to himself and the other to a tree. Then he climbed down the cliff quickly. The cliff was not too steep, nor was it as smooth as a mirror. There were small trees and rocks protruding out everywhere. Luli got down the cliff easily. Go! Going down the cliff was equivalent to going down the frigid cloud mountain. The road ahead would be a flat plain. It would be much more difficult for the Zhao family to catch up with him. Luli's spirit was boosted. After some exploration, he ran on in strides. He did not go straight to the Wuling County, nor did he go back the way he came. Instead, he took a detour to the county from the southwest. He ran towards the southwest for 10 hours at the top of his speed and found a small town at dusk. Should I go in or not? Luli was a bit hesitant. There was a tavern in the small town where he could have a good rest, a hot meal, and a comfortable bath. However, if he went in, there would be too many people inside. There might be spies of the Zhao family. His whereabouts would be easily exposed. Go in. After some thoughts, he decided to take the risk. However, before he went in, he messed up his hair and he was dirty. In this way, the possibility of being recognized would be greatly reduced. He needed information. He needed to figure out the direction and the route to the Wuling County. He should not be far from the Wuling County. If he hurried on the road tomorrow, he would arrive at the Wuling County in a couple of hours. Even if Zhao Rui and the others wanted to catch up with him, it would be difficult. Luli waited outside for an hour. When it was completely dark, he walked into the small town with his head down. It was dinner time, so there were not many people on the road. Nobody paid attention to him. He found the only tavern in the small town. A waiter saw him like this and quickly came out to stop him. Luli handed over the 2 golden leaves that he had prepared and said in a deep voice, "Give me a private room. I want quiet. Now." Seeing the 5 golden leaves, the waiter's eyes turned into crescent moons. He showed Luli to the backyard and gave him a private room. P.S. Chapter 4 is up. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.